How to read people like a book. Have you ever wished you could understand what someone is really thinking? To know if they are being genuine, if they are interested, or if they are hiding something. This book is your guide to just that. We'll explore the simple yet powerful ways to understand people better, not through complicated theories, but by paying attention to the clues they are always giving. It is like learning a new language, the unspoken language of people. Let us begin this journey to seeing people more clearly. Before we dive in, I have a question for you. Think about the last interesting conversation you had with someone. What was one thing you noticed about them that had nothing to do with the words they said? Maybe it was the way they smiled, how they held their hands, or how they looked at you. Take a moment to think about it and share that one simple observation in the comments below. It is a great first step in awakening the observer within you. Chapter 1. The Silent Language, More Than Just Words. Welcome to the first step of our journey together. In this chapter, we are going to open the door to a world that you have always been a part of, but perhaps never fully noticed. It is the world of silent communication. It is the language that is spoken without a single word. You might have heard it called body language or nonverbal communication, but I want you to think of it simply as the truth. Because while people can carefully choose their words, the signals their bodies send are often much more honest. The body speaks its mind, and our goal is to learn how to listen. This is not about learning tricks to manipulate people or to gain some unfair advantage. It is about connection. It is about empathy. It is about understanding the human experience on a deeper, more meaningful level. You have an incredible power lying dormant within you, the power of observation and intuition. This chapter is about awakening that power, sharpening it, and learning to trust what it tells you. You might be surprised to learn just how much of our communication is silent. There was a famous study conducted by Professor Albert Mehrabian in the 1960s that broke down how we communicate feelings and attitudes. His research suggested that in certain situations, only 7% of our message is conveyed through the actual words we use. 38% comes from our tone of voice, which we will explore in a later chapter. And a staggering 55%, more than half of the entire message, comes from our body language. Now, it is important to understand the context of this study. This does not mean that if you are reading a technical manual, the words only count for 7%. That would be absurd. This rule applies specifically to situations where we are communicating our feelings or attitudes. But think about it. How often are our daily conversations filled with feelings and attitudes? Almost always. When you are on a first date, in a job interview, talking to your child, or dealing with a difficult coworker, the feelings and attitudes are flying, and that is when this silent language becomes the most important channel of information. Imagine you ask a friend how they are doing. They look down at the floor, their shoulders are slumped forward, and in a quiet, flat voice they say, "I am fine." Do you believe their words? Or do you believe the 55% of their message, the part their body is screaming at you, that tells you something is wrong? Of course, you believe their body. You already do this instinctively. You already know that there is a difference between what people say and what they mean. The goal of this book is to take that instinct and turn it into a conscious, reliable skill. You are about to move from being a passive listener of this silent language to an active and fluent speaker. The reason this silent language is so honest is because most of it is generated by the unconscious part of our brain. When you feel an emotion, like fear, joy, or nervousness, your brain sends signals throughout your body instantly, without you even having to think about it. Your heart rate might increase, your palms might get sweaty, you might start to fidget, or a genuine smile might spread across your face. These are involuntary reactions. They are windows into a person's true emotional state. A person can decide to lie with their words. They can say, "I am not nervous at all," but if their hand is trembling and their voice is shaky, their body is telling a different story. The conscious mind, the part that controls words, can lie. The subconscious mind, the part that controls most body language, cannot. This is the fundamental principle we will build upon. You are learning to bypass the carefully crafted words and listen directly to the person's true feelings. So how do we begin this process? Where does this journey start? It starts with a single, simple, yet profound action: observation. You must transform yourself from a mere participant in your daily interactions into a curious observer. For most of our lives, we are so focused on what we are going to say next, on our own thoughts and feelings, that we completely miss the wealth of information the other person is giving us. Your first and most important piece of homework is to start watching people. I do not mean staring at them in a creepy way. I mean paying gentle, curious attention. Think of yourself as a detective, but one who is looking for clues to understanding, not clues to a crime. Here is your first actionable exercise. I want you to find a place where you can watch people interact without being intrusive. A coffee shop is a perfect laboratory for this. A park bench, a public square, or even the food court at a mall will work wonderfully. Your mission is simple. For 15 minutes, just watch. Do not try to interpret anything yet, that comes later. For now, you are just collecting data. Watch a couple on a date. What are their bodies doing? Are they leaning towards each other, or are they leaning away? Are their arms open or crossed? Watch a group of friends laughing. How do their faces change? What gestures do they use? Watch someone talking on their phone. Are they pacing back and forth? Are they gesticulating wildly, even though no one can see them? Your only job is to notice. Do not label anything as good or bad. Do not jump to conclusions. Simply be a sponge for visual information. The goal of this exercise is to train your brain to start noticing the details you have been filtering out your entire life. You are building a new mental muscle, the muscle of awareness. As you practice this, you will begin to see patterns. You will notice that people often mirror each other's body language when they are in agreement or feel a strong connection. One person leans forward, the other person leans forward. One person picks up their coffee cup, and a second later, the other person does the same. This is called isopraxism or mirroring, and it is a powerful unconscious signal of rapport. It is the body's way of saying, I am like you, I am on your side. Once you start seeing it, you will see it everywhere, from business meetings to romantic dinners. It is a beautiful dance of connection that happens completely beneath the surface of the conversation. Now that you have begun the practice of pure observation, we need to introduce a foundational concept that will prevent you from making mistakes. It is the concept of the baseline. Every person has a unique set of behaviors, twitches and gestures that are normal for them. This is their baseline. Some people are naturally fidgety. They are always tapping their foot or clicking a pen. For them, fidgeting is normal and does not necessarily mean they are nervous or lying. Other people are naturally very still. For that person, a sudden bout of fidgeting would be a very significant signal. Do you see the difference? You cannot accurately read a person until you have a sense of what is normal for them. Reading people is not about judging a single action. It is about spotting the changes, the deviations from their normal behavior. How do you establish a baseline for someone? For people you see regularly, like family members, close friends, and co-workers, you have a huge advantage. You already have a lot of data. Start paying conscious attention to them. How does your boss normally sit during a relaxed weekly meeting? What does your partner normally do with their hands when they are telling you about their day? What is your friend's normal tone of voice and pace of speech? File this information away in your mind. This is their neutral state. Then, when a difficult topic comes up, or when you suspect something is going on, you watch for the changes. Does your boss suddenly lean back and cross his arms when you mention a new project? Does your partner's voice get a little higher in pitch when you ask about a specific expense? Does your friend suddenly have trouble making eye contact when telling a particular story? These deviations from the baseline are the hotspots. They are the bright red flags that tell you to pay closer attention, that an emotional shift has just occurred. For people you have just met, establishing a baseline is a little trickier, but it is still possible. When you first meet someone, spend the first few minutes making small talk about neutral, non-threatening topics. Ask them about their weekend, the weather, or a local sports team. As they talk about these easy subjects, observe their body language. This is their baseline in this specific context. Notice their posture, their level of eye contact, their hand gestures. Then, when the conversation shifts to the more important topic, like the details of a business deal or a personal question, you watch for the changes. Did their posture suddenly become more rigid? Did they break eye contact for the first time? Did they start a new repetitive gesture? The change is what matters. The change is where the truth often lies. This is why you must resist the urge to jump to conclusions. I know it is tempting. You see someone cross their arms and you immediately think they are closed off and defensive, but this is a rookie mistake. A single gesture, viewed in isolation, means almost nothing. To become truly skilled at reading people, you must become a master of the 3 C's: context, clusters, and congruence. Let's break these down, because they are the 3 pillars that will support your entire understanding of nonverbal communication. First, let's talk about context. The context of any interaction is the king. It determines the meaning of everything. Let's go back to the example of crossed arms. If you see a man standing at a bus stop in the middle of a freezing winter day with his arms crossed tightly, what does it mean? It probably means he is cold. It is a self-hugging gesture to preserve body heat. It has nothing to do with his emotional state. Now imagine you are in a meeting with your colleague. You are proposing a new idea that you are very excited about. As you're explaining it, your colleague, who was previously leaning forward and looking engaged, suddenly leans back in his chair, crosses his arms tightly across his chest, and squints his eyes slightly. In this context, what do the crossed arms mean? It is highly unlikely that he is suddenly cold. In this context, the gesture is a very clear signal of disagreement, skepticism, or defensiveness. He has put up a barrier between you and him. The gesture is the same, but the context changes the meaning entirely. You must always ask yourself, what is the situation here? What is the physical environment? What is the relationship between the people involved? What was said just before I saw this signal? A person rubbing their eyes might be tired, or if they have just been given a terrible report, it could be an eye-blocking gesture, a subconscious attempt to unsee the bad news they just heard. A woman twirling her hair might be flirting, or she could simply be bored and it is a self-soothing habit. Without context, you are just guessing. Always, always, always consider the context before you even begin to interpret a signal. This principle alone will save you from countless misinterpretations and embarrassing social blunders. It grounds your observations in reality. The second pillar is clusters. This is a beautiful and powerful concept. Nonverbal signals rarely come alone. They tend to come in groups, or what we call clusters. You should never, ever base a judgment on a single gesture. That is like trying to understand a sentence by looking at a single letter. It is meaningless. You must look for a group of signals that are all telling the same story. This is how you build a reliable case for what someone is truly feeling. Let us build a cluster together. Imagine you suspect a coworker is not being truthful about why they missed a deadline. You ask them about it. You are not looking for one single sign of a lie. You are looking for a cluster of discomfort. Let's say, as they begin to explain, they suddenly break eye contact and look away. That is signal number 1. Then they reach up and touch the back of their neck. This is a common self-soothing gesture, indicating stress or discomfort. That is signal number 2. You also notice that one of their feet starts tapping nervously on the floor. That is signal number 3. And finally, you notice that their verbal response is full of ums and ahs and seems overly complicated for a simple explanation. That is signal number 4. Now, do you have a much stronger case? Any one of these signals alone could be dismissed. Maybe they broke eye contact because something caught their eye. Maybe their neck was just itchy. But all 4 signals happening together in a cluster, right at the moment you ask a difficult question, that is a very strong indication that they are feeling immense pressure and discomfort, which often accompanies deception. Let's look at a positive cluster. You are on a date and you want to know if the other person is interested in you. You are looking for a cluster of positive signals. You notice they are leaning in towards you. That is one signal. Their arms are open and their hands are visible, not hidden in their pockets. That is another signal. They are maintaining strong, steady eye contact with you. A third signal. And you notice that when you smile, they genuinely smile back. A smile that reaches their eyes. A fourth signal. And perhaps you even notice them mirroring your posture. A fifth signal. This cluster of behaviors is painting a very clear picture of interest, openness, and engagement. You can feel much more confident in this situation because you are not relying on a single, ambiguous cue. You are reading the whole paragraph, not just a single letter. Your mission as an observer is to become a cluster hunter. Look for patterns. Look for reinforcement. When you see multiple signals all pointing in the same direction, you can begin to trust your judgment. The third and final pillar is congruence. This is where the verbal and non-verbal channels meet. Congruence simply means that the words a person is saying match the signals their body is sending. When there is congruence, the message is believable and feels authentic. When there is incongruence, a mismatch between the words and the body language, this is a massive red flag. The body language is almost always the more honest of the two. Let's go back to our earlier example. Your friend says, "I am fine," but their body language is slumped and withdrawn. This is a classic case of incongruence. The words say one thing, the body says the exact opposite. Which do you believe? The body, every time. Imagine a salesperson telling you, "This is a fantastic offer and I am really excited for you," but as they say it, they give a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of the head, as if saying, "No." This is an incongruent signal. Their body is betraying their words. Or perhaps someone is apologizing to you. They say the words, "I am so sorry," but they do it with their arms crossed, their jaw tight, and without making eye contact. Do you feel like the apology is sincere? No, because the words are not congruent with the body language of remorse, which would be open, soft, and include eye contact. Your job is to be a congruence detector. When you are listening to someone, also be watching them. Do the gestures match the energy of the words? Does the facial expression align with the emotion being described? When someone is telling you a happy story, are they showing the signs of happiness? When they are expressing concern, does their face show concern? When the words and the body are in perfect harmony, you are likely hearing the truth as that person experiences it. But when you spot a mismatch, an incongruity, that is the moment to become curious. It does not automatically mean the person is lying. It simply means there is an internal conflict going on. Perhaps they are trying to be brave when they are actually scared. Perhaps they are trying to sound confident when they feel insecure. The incongruence is a signal of that inner turmoil. It is an invitation to ask more questions, to dig a little deeper, and to understand what is truly happening beneath the surface. Mastering these 3 C's, context, clusters, and congruence, will elevate you from a casual people watcher to a sophisticated reader of human behavior. It provides you with a framework, a system that you can rely on. It stops you from making snap judgments and forces you to be a more thorough and empathetic detective. Remember your power. The power to understand is the power to connect. Every person you meet is a living book, filled with stories, emotions, and truths. Most people only ever read the cover, the words that are spoken. But you are learning to read the entire book. You are learning to understand the silent, beautiful, and honest language of the human body. This is a skill that will enrich every single relationship in your life, from the most casual encounter to the most intimate partnership. The journey has just begun, and the most exciting discoveries are still ahead. Keep observing, stay curious, and be patient with yourself. You are learning the language of humanity itself. Chapter 2. The eyes don't lie. A window to the soul. If the body tells a story, then the eyes are the main characters, the narrators, and the undeniable heart of the narrative. They are often called the windows to the soul, and for once this poetic expression is remarkably close to the scientific truth. No other part of our body reveals our inner world with such speed, subtlety, and honesty. The reason for this is beautifully simple. The eyes are a direct extension of your brain. The optic nerve connects the eye directly to the brain, and the muscles that control our eye movements, our blinking, and the size of our pupils are intimately linked with the parts of our brain that process emotions, fear, and interest. This means that when a person feels something, their eyes will often react before they have even had a chance to consciously process the feeling, let alone decide what to say about it. This is why we instinctively trust what we see in someone's eyes more than what we hear from their lips. You are about to become a student of this profound and powerful channel of communication. Learning to read the eyes is not about staring people down or making them uncomfortable. It is about learning to have a deeper, more silent conversation. It is about offering your attention so fully that you see beyond the surface and connect with the truth of their experience. This chapter will give you the tools to do just that, to transform a simple glance into a source of incredible insight. Let us begin with the most fundamental aspect of eye communication, the gaze. Where a person is looking, and for how long, is one of the most powerful signals they can send. It dictates the flow of conversation, establishes relationships of power, and signals our deepest interests. We can break down the gaze into three main types, and knowing the difference will immediately tell you about the nature of the relationship in that moment. The first is the social gaze. When you are in a friendly, non-threatening conversation, you will notice that people's eyes tend to move in a small triangle. They look from one of the other person's eyes to the other, and then down towards the mouth and chin area, and then back up. This is the comfortable standard pattern for most social interactions. It shows engagement and friendliness. When you observe this pattern, you know you are in a rapport-building situation. The second type is the power gaze. This one is very different. Instead of looking down towards the mouth, the gaze stays fixed in a triangle between the two eyes and the center of the forehead. It intentionally avoids the more personal, social area of the face. This gaze is often used, consciously or subconsciously, to assert dominance or to intimidate. It feels intense and scrutinizing. If a boss is questioning you about a missed deadline, or a police officer is asking you questions, you will likely feel the weight of the power gaze. It says, "I am in control here, and I am not here to be your friend." Recognizing this gaze allows you to understand the power dynamics at play and to prepare yourself mentally for a more serious interaction. The third type of gaze is perhaps the most exciting to recognize, the intimate gaze. This gaze also moves in a triangle, but it is a much larger one. It moves from the eyes, down past the chin, and onto other parts of the person's body, and then back up to the eyes. This is the gaze of attraction and deep affection. It is the body's way of saying, "I am taking all of you in." When you are on a date, and you see the other person's eyes scanning your face and then dropping down to your body before returning to your eyes, it is a very strong indicator of romantic interest. It is a signal that is almost impossible to fake convincingly. The key is the cluster of signals. The intimate gaze, combined with dilated pupils and a genuine smile, is one of the most reliable clusters of attraction you can observe. Learning to differentiate between these three gazes gives you an immediate understanding of the emotional context of the conversation. Is it friendly and social? Is it a power play? Or is it intimate and personal? The eyes will tell you before a single word needs to be spoken. Now, what about the duration of eye contact? This is just as important as the direction. Holding eye contact is a sign of connection, confidence, and honesty. In most Western cultures, the sweet spot for comfortable eye contact is holding it for about 60 to 70% of the time you are interacting. This shows that you are engaged and listening. People who hold eye contact for longer than this can be perceived as aggressive, intimidating, or even creepy. It can feel like they are trying to stare you down. On the other hand, people who consistently fail to make eye contact, holding it for less than 40% of the time, are often perceived as shy, insecure, untrustworthy, or disinterested. Their avoidance of your gaze can make you feel as though they are hiding something, or that they do not value the conversation. Of course, we must apply our master rule of context. If you're talking to someone who is very shy, their lack of eye contact is part of their baseline and is more a sign of their personality than deception. Similarly, if you are asking someone to recall a specific detail, like what they ate for breakfast last Tuesday, they will naturally break eye contact. They might look up or to the side. This is not a sign of lying, it is a sign that they are accessing the memory centers of their brain. You do it too. Do not mistake thinking for dishonesty. The key is to look for changes from the baseline. If you are talking to a normally confident person who usually gives you great eye contact, but on a specific topic, they suddenly cannot look you in the eye, that is a significant signal. That is the moment your curiosity should be piqued. What about that topic is making them uncomfortable? The break in the established pattern is where the information lies. Let us dig deeper into a part of the eye that operates completely outside of conscious control, the pupil. The pupil is the black dot in the center of the eye that expands and contracts to let in light. But it does so much more than that. The size of our pupils is controlled by our autonomic nervous system, the same system that controls our heart rate and our breathing. This means it is a completely honest signal of our inner state. When we see something we like or are interested in, whether it is a person we are attracted to, a delicious-looking piece of cake, or a fascinating piece of art, our pupils will dilate or get bigger. This is the brain's way of saying, I like what I see, and I want to get more of it. It is an involuntary response of interest and arousal. There have been fascinating studies on this phenomenon. In one classic experiment, researchers showed a group of men 2 photos of the same woman and asked them which one they found more attractive. The photos were identical, except in one, the woman's pupils had been subtly retouched to appear larger. A significant majority of the men chose the photo with the dilated pupils without being able to consciously say why. They simply felt she looked prettier or more inviting. Her dilated pupils subconsciously signaled interest, which in turn made her more attractive to the men observing her. This is happening under the surface of our awareness all the time. When you are showing someone a new idea or a project you're excited about, and you notice their pupils dilate, it is a genuine, undeniable signal that you have captured their interest. Conversely, when we see something we dislike or find repulsive, our pupils will constrict or get smaller. It is the brain's way of trying to block out the negative image. If a person's pupils constrict when you mention a certain name or a specific plan, it is a powerful clue to their true negative feelings on the matter, even if their words are polite. The pupils offer an unfiltered view of what the mind truly desires and detests. Next, let us consider the blink rate. Blinking is a necessary function to keep our eyes lubricated, but the rate at which we do it is heavily influenced by our psychological state. A normal, relaxed person will blink about 15 to 20 times per minute. This is the baseline you should be aware of. Any significant deviation from this baseline is telling you something. When a person is under stress, feeling nervous or being deceptive, their blink rate will often increase dramatically. They might start blinking 30, 40, or even 50 times a minute. This is because the stress response can cause the eyes to become drier, and more importantly, the increased cognitive load of trying to manage a lie or control anxiety is mentally taxing, and this often manifests as a rapid blink rate. Think of it as a kind of mental static that shows up in the eyes. If you are having a normal conversation with someone and their blink rate is steady, but when you ask a particularly pointed question, their eyes start fluttering like a butterfly, you have just hit a nerve. You have just touched on a topic that is causing them significant internal stress. Conversely, a decrease in blink rate is also a very powerful signal. When a person is intensely focused or concentrating, their blink rate will slow down. Think of a cat watching a mouse. Its eyes are wide, and it barely blinks because it does not want to miss a single moment. Similarly, a person who is deeply engrossed in what you are saying will often have a slower blink rate. However, a dramatically reduced blink rate can also be a sign of aggression or an attempt to dominate. When someone is trying to intimidate you, they might stare at you with very little blinking. It is a conscious or subconscious attempt to unnerve you with the intensity of their gaze. Poker players often try to control their blink rate to avoid giving away any tells about their hand. They are trying to consciously suppress a subconscious signal. The key, as always, is to compare the blink rate to the person's baseline and the context of the situation. A rapid blink rate during a high-stakes negotiation signals something very different from a rapid blink rate while walking through a dusty room. Beyond the pupil and the blink, the muscles around the eyes are incredibly expressive. They are the key to distinguishing a real smile from a fake one. This is one of the most useful skills you can ever learn. A polite, social smile, the kind you give to a stranger on the street, only uses the muscles around the mouth. It is a simple upward turn of the lips. But a genuine smile of joy and happiness, what scientists call a Duchenne smile, is involuntary and involves 2 sets of muscles. It involves the muscles around the mouth, but it also involves the muscles around the eyes, the orbicularis oculi. When a person is truly happy, these muscles around the eyes contract, creating little wrinkles or crow's feet at the outer corners of the eyes. The cheeks get pushed up, and the eyes themselves seem to sparkle. You can see the joy in their eyes, you can feel it. Here is an actionable exercise for you. Go find a mirror right now. First, I want you to smile just using your mouth. Keep the top half of your face still. See? That is the social smile. It looks polite, but it does not look truly happy. Now I want you to think of a time you were genuinely, uncontrollably happy. Think of a hilarious memory, or someone you loved deeply. Let that feeling fill you up, and then smile. Look at your eyes. See the difference? See those little crinkles at the corners? See how your cheeks are raised? That is the real thing. Once you learn to spot the difference, you will never be able to unsee it. You will be able to tell when your boss's praise is genuine or just a formality. You will know when a friend's laughter is from the heart. You will know when an apology is backed by real emotion. Look for the crow's feet. They are the signature of authentic joy. The muscles around the eyes also give us clues about other emotions. When someone is sad or worried, you will often see the inner corners of their eyebrows pull up and together, creating a slight arch. This is an incredibly reliable indicator of sadness, even if the person is trying to hold back tears. Squinting is another powerful tell. It can simply mean a person is having trouble seeing something, but in a conversation, it often signals skepticism, doubt, or displeasure. If you are presenting an idea and you see members of your audience squinting, it is a sign that they are not buying what you are saying. They are figuratively trying to see it more clearly because they have doubts. You also have the opposite, the wide-eyed look of surprise or fear. The eyelids open up, exposing more of the white of the eye, as the brain tries to take in as much visual information as possible about a potential threat or a surprising event. Then there is eye blocking. This is a behavior where a person briefly covers or closes their eyes for a moment longer than a normal blink. You might see someone rub their eyes or pinch the bridge of their nose with their eyes closed, right after hearing some bad news or being asked a difficult question. This is a subconscious attempt to unsee what they have just heard or been asked. It is the brain's way of saying, "I don't like this, make it go away." It is a momentary defense mechanism that reveals a person's true negative reaction to something. If you tell your partner that you have to work late for the third night in a row, and you see a brief eye block, you know that even if they say, "That's fine," it is not really fine. The eye block revealed their true feelings of disappointment. One of the most crucial things to remember when reading eyes and all body language is that culture plays a huge role. The rules are not universal. In most Western cultures, as we have discussed, direct eye contact is seen as a sign of sincerity and confidence, but this is not true everywhere. In many Asian and African cultures, sustained direct eye contact, especially with an elder or a person in a position of authority, is considered rude, aggressive, and disrespectful. Averting the gaze is a sign of respect, not dishonesty. In some Middle Eastern cultures, intense eye contact between people of the same gender is common and indicates sincerity, while between opposite genders it can be considered inappropriate. If you are interacting with people from different cultural backgrounds, you cannot apply a single set of rules. Your most important skill in these situations is observation and adaptation. Before you jump to any conclusions, take a moment to observe how people are interacting with each other. What is the local norm for eye contact? Adjust your interpretations accordingly. This is a mark of true emotional intelligence, the ability to understand that people are different and to read them within their own cultural context. So, how do you put all of this together in a real-life situation? Let us imagine you are in a job interview. You are the interviewer. You ask the candidate, "Can you tell me about a time you had to handle a high-pressure situation?" As they begin to answer, you are not just listening to their words, you are watching their eyes. You establish a baseline during the initial small talk. Now you are looking for changes. As they tell their story, they maintain good, steady, social gaze eye contact. Their blink rate is normal. This is a good sign. When they talk about the successful outcome, you see their eyes light up and you notice the crow's feet of a genuine Duchenne smile. This tells you they are likely telling the truth about their pride in their accomplishment. Now, imagine you ask a follow-up question. In your resume, it says you were responsible for the entire project. Is that correct? At that specific moment, you notice a cluster of signals. They break eye contact for the first time, looking down and to the left. Their blink rate suddenly doubles. You also notice a slight squint, as if they are trying to process your question. This cluster of cues does not automatically mean they are lying, but it is a massive signal of discomfort. The sudden shift from their baseline tells you that you have hit on a sensitive topic. Your follow-up question should be gentle and probing. Perhaps you could say, "It sounds like it was a complex project with a lot of moving parts. What was your specific role in leading the team?" This allows them to clarify without feeling accused, and it gives you more information. You use the signals from their eyes not to accuse, but to become more curious and to dig for the deeper truth. The eyes are a constant stream of information, an unending broadcast of a person's inner world. Your journey now is to start tuning in to that broadcast. Do not try to memorize a checklist. Instead, focus on being present and observant. When you talk to someone, really look at them. Notice the light in their eyes. Notice the subtle shifts in their gaze. Notice the crinkles when they smile. This act of paying attention is, in itself, a gift. It makes people feel seen, heard, and understood on a level that words alone can never reach. You have the ability to look at another human being and understand their joy, their fear, their interest, and their doubt, all without them saying a word. This is not a trick. It is the foundation of empathy. It is the beginning of a deeper, more profound connection with everyone you meet. The silent conversation is happening all around you. Your eyes are now open to it. Listen well. Chapter 3. What their body is screaming, posture and gestures. If the eyes are the narrators of our inner story, then the rest of the body is the grand stage on which that story is performed. Every posture we take, every gesture we make is a form of expression, a piece of the puzzle that reveals our true attitudes, emotions, and intentions. Most people are so focused on their words and their facial expressions that they remain blissfully unaware of the powerful messages their bodies are screaming. This is a huge advantage for you, the astute observer. The body, especially from the neck down, is often the most honest part of a person, because it is the part we pay the least conscious attention to. In this chapter, we are going to embark on a tour of the human body, from the angle of the torso to the direction of the feet. To learn the vocabulary of this silent and powerful language, you will learn how to spot confidence, insecurity, openness, and defensiveness just by the way a person carries themselves. This is not about learning a series of static poses like a dictionary. It is about understanding the dynamic dance of the human body and how it reflects the inner dance of the human mind. Prepare to see the world around you in a whole new dimension, where every posture tells a story and every gesture has a meaning. Let us start with the foundation of all body language: posture. A person's posture is their body's billboard. It is a massive broadcasted signal that tells you, from a distance, about their emotional state and their level of self-confidence. The most fundamental concept to understand here is the difference between open and closed postures. An open posture is one in which the body is, quite literally, open to the world. The arms are uncrossed, the legs are uncrossed, and the torso, the most vulnerable part of our body containing all our vital organs, is exposed. This posture signals confidence, comfort, and willingness to engage. A person with an open posture is subconsciously saying, "I am not a threat and I do not feel threatened. I am open to you and what you have to say." When you see someone leaning back in their chair with their arms relaxed at their sides, or standing with their hands casually in their pockets, but their torso facing you directly, you are seeing openness and acceptance. A closed posture is the exact opposite. It is the body's attempt to protect itself and to create a barrier. The most classic example, of course, is crossing the arms over the chest. Other examples include crossing the legs, holding a bag or a book in front of the torso, or angling the body away from the person they are talking to. These postures are a signal of defensiveness, discomfort, disagreement, or anxiety. The person is subconsciously saying, "I feel vulnerable and I need to protect myself," or "I do not agree with what you are saying and I am putting up a wall." As we learned in Chapter 1, context is everything. Someone might cross their arms because they are cold, but if you are in a comfortable room and you are pitching an idea to your boss, and he suddenly shifts from an open posture to crossing his arms tightly, you have just received a powerful piece of non-verbal feedback. He is closing himself off to your idea. That is your cue to change your approach, perhaps by asking a question like, "I get the sense there might be a concern here. What are your initial thoughts? You are responding to the body's message, not just the polite silence. Building on this idea of open and closed postures is the concept of high power and low power poses, famously researched by social psychologist Amy Cuddy. High power poses are expansive. They involve taking up more space. Think of a superhero standing with their hands on their hips and their feet spread apart, the Wonder Woman pose. Or a CEO leaning back in his chair with his hands behind his head. These poses project confidence, dominance, and power. They are the postures of leaders and winners. Low-power poses, on the other hand, are contractive. They involve making oneself smaller. Think of someone slouching in their chair, with their arms and legs crossed tightly, trying to take up as little space as possible. Or someone standing with their head down and their hands clasped in front of them. These postures signal submissiveness, insecurity, and a lack of confidence. What is truly revolutionary about this research is that it is a two-way street. Not only does our emotional state affect our posture, but our posture can dramatically affect our emotional state. In her studies, Cuddy found that holding a high-power pose for just 2 minutes can increase testosterone levels, the dominance hormone, and decrease cortisol levels, the stress hormone. This means you can actually change your own brain chemistry and your feelings of confidence simply by changing your posture. This is an incredibly empowering and actionable tool for you. Before you walk into a stressful situation, like a job interview, a public speaking engagement, or a difficult conversation, find a private space like a bathroom stall or an empty office and hold a high-power pose for 2 minutes. Stand with your feet apart, put your hands on your hips, lift your chin, and puff out your chest. It might feel silly, but you are sending a powerful signal to your own brain to feel more confident and less stressed. You can literally go from feeling powerless to feeling powerful in 120 seconds. This is not just about reading others. It is about writing your own story of confidence from the outside in. Beyond the general posture, the orientation of the torso is a critical clue. Where a person's torso and feet are pointing is where their mind wants to go. This is sometimes called the belly button rule. We subconsciously point our torso and feet in the direction of our interest. If you are in a group of people at a party, notice where everyone's torso is angled. You will often see people subtly aiming themselves towards the person they find most interesting, or the person they perceive as the leader of the group. Conversely, if you are talking to someone and their torso and feet are angled away from you towards the door, it is a massive signal that they want to end the conversation and leave. Their words might be polite, "Oh, that's so interesting," but their body is screaming, "I need to get out of here." This is an invaluable cue in social situations. If you see someone's body angled away, do not try to hold them captive in the conversation. Be the socially intelligent person who recognizes the signal and gracefully ends the interaction. You could say, "Well, I don't want to keep you. It was great talking. They will be immensely grateful, and you will have proven yourself to be a masterful reader of the room." Now let us move to the arms. We have talked about arm crossing, but there are many variations. A standard arm cross is defensive, but if you see someone crossing their arms and their hands are clenched into fists, the level of hostility has just been dialed up significantly. This is a much more aggressive posture. If you see someone crossing their arms, but also gripping their own biceps, this often signals a high level of insecurity and a need for self-reassurance. It is a self-hugging gesture that says, "I am very uncomfortable right now. What about when the arms are not crossed?" Putting the hands on the hips, the classic arms akimbo pose, is a gesture of readiness and authority. It makes a person look bigger and signals they are ready for action. It can be seen as confident, but it can also be seen as aggressive, depending on the context. Think of an angry parent about to scold a child. On the other hand, clasping the hands behind the back is often a sign of confidence and superiority. You will see royalty or military commanders adopt this pose. It exposes the entire vulnerable torso, signaling, "I am so confident that I do not need to protect myself." But again, there is a variation. If a person is holding one wrist or arm tightly behind their back, it is often a sign of frustration and an attempt at self-control. They are literally holding themselves back from doing or saying something they might regret. The hands are perhaps the most articulate part of the body after the face. They are capable of an incredible range of expression. Let's create a small lexicon of hand gestures. One of the most powerful signals of confidence is the hand steeple. This is when a person brings their fingertips together to form something that looks like a church steeple. You will often see this gesture used by bosses, politicians, and professors. It is a universal display of high confidence in one's own thoughts. When you see someone steepling while they are listening to you, it can mean they are confident in their judgment of what you are saying. If they are doing it while they are speaking, it means they have total conviction in their own words. Pay attention to this one. It is a reliable indicator of the confidence level in the room. The orientation of the palms is also incredibly significant. Showing your palms has been a signal of peace and honesty for centuries. It shows you are not concealing a weapon. When a person speaks with their palms facing up, it communicates openness, sincerity, and even a degree of submission. It is a non-threatening gesture that helps to build rapport. If you want to be more persuasive and likable, try incorporating more palms-up gestures when you speak. In contrast, speaking with your palms facing down is a gesture of dominance and authority. It is like placing a cap on the conversation. It signals finality and can feel dismissive. If a person says this is how it is going to be with a palm-down gesture, they are signaling that the discussion is over. Then there is the pointed finger. This is almost universally seen as an aggressive gesture. When you point your finger at someone, you are using it as a symbolic club. It makes people feel accused and defensive. Great communicators rarely, if ever, use this gesture. They will often use a whole hand gesture to direct attention instead. Our hands are also where we reveal our anxiety. We have a set of behaviors called adapters, or self-soothing gestures, which we use to comfort ourselves when we are feeling stressed or nervous. These are some of the most important signals to watch for, as they are a direct leak of a person's internal anxiety. The most common is face touching. When under pressure, people will often touch their lips, chin, cheek, or nose. This is because the nerve endings in the face are very sensitive, and touching them has a psychologically calming effect. However, frequent face touching during a conversation about a specific topic can also be an indicator of deception, as the stress of lying can trigger these self-soothing behaviors. Another common adapter is rubbing or touching the neck. The neck is a very vulnerable area, and touching it is a protective and calming gesture. You will see people rub the back of their neck when they are feeling frustrated, or touch the dimple at the base of their throat when they feel insecure. Hand-wringing, rubbing the hands together or rubbing the top of one hand with the thumb of the other are all classic signs of nervousness. It is as if the person is trying to wring the anxiety out of their body. Watch for these signals. When you see a cluster of them appear, you know the person's stress level has just spiked. Perhaps the most overlooked and therefore most honest part of the body is the lower half. We are all taught from a young age to control our facial expressions, to put on a happy face. We are somewhat aware of our hands and arms, but most of us pay almost no attention to what our legs and feet are doing. This is why former FBI counterintelligence agent Joe Navarro calls the feet the most honest part of the body. As we have discussed, the feet point where the mind wants to go. This is a rule you can take to the bank. If you are trying to close a sale, and the client's feet are pointed towards the door, you have not closed the sale yet. Their mind is already leaving. The way people cross their legs can also be revealing. A standard leg cross at the knee can simply be a comfortable position. However, pay attention to which leg is on top. We tend to cross our top leg towards people we like and feel comfortable with, creating a partial barrier to those we dislike. A more telling posture is the figure 4 leg cross, where the ankle of one leg rests on the knee of the other. This is a more competitive and argumentative posture, often seen in men. It takes up more space and can signal that the person is ready for a debate. What about when people are standing? If you see people in a group and one person has their legs crossed at the ankles, it means they are feeling comfortable and relaxed. This is because the position is off balance and not conducive to a quick escape. It signals that they feel safe in the group. Pay attention to the little movements of the feet. When a person is feeling impatient or bored, they will often start tapping a foot or bouncing a leg. It is a sign that their body has excess energy and wants to be on the move. But there is a very interesting positive tell with the feet as well. When a person is having a happy thought or feels like they have an upper hand in a negotiation, you will sometimes see one of their feet begin to defy gravity. The heel will lift off the floor, or the whole foot might start to bounce in a happy, energetic rhythm. This is a very reliable indicator of positive feelings. If you are a salesperson and you just mentioned the price and you see the client's foot start to bounce happily, you know you are probably in a very good position. Finally, let's talk about the invisible bubble of personal space that surrounds us, a concept known as proxemics. We all have different zones of space that we reserve for different types of relationships. The intimate zone, from direct contact to about 18 inches, is for close friends, family, and romantic partners. The personal zone, from about 18 inches to 4 feet, is for conversations with friends and colleagues. The social zone, from 4 to 12 feet, is for interactions with new acquaintances or groups. An invasion of the wrong zone causes immediate discomfort. If a stranger stands too close to you in line, you will feel an immediate urge to step away. You can learn a lot about the relationship between two people by observing the distance they maintain between each other. You can also use this knowledge to build rapport. When you feel a connection with someone, you might notice that you both start to lean in, slightly closing the distance in the personal zone. If you lean in and the other person leans away, you have a clear signal that you are moving too fast. Respecting people's personal space is a fundamental way of making them feel comfortable and safe around you. The world of posture and gesture is rich and complex. It is a constant dance of confidence and insecurity, openness and defensiveness, truth and anxiety. Your task is not to memorize every single gesture. Your task is to start seeing the overall pattern. Use the rule of clusters. Do not just see crossed arms. See the crossed arms, combined with the angled away torso, the lack of eye contact, and the tapping foot. The entire body is telling a single coherent story. I'm uncomfortable and I want to leave. Your power lies in seeing that story and reacting to it with empathy and intelligence. Start by observing yourself. How do you stand when you feel confident? What do you do with your hands when you are nervous? When you understand your own body's language, you will be much more attuned to the language of others. Every person you meet is performing a ballet of their inner life right in front of you. You just needed to learn the steps. Now you can see the dance. Chapter 4. The Truth in a Smile and Other Facial Expressions. Welcome back. In our journey so far, we have learned to listen to the body's posture and to read the profound stories told by the eyes. Now we arrive at the most expressive and intricate part of the human body, the face. Your face is a canvas upon which your emotions paint their masterpieces, often in fractions of a second. It is the command center of your identity, the primary way you signal your feelings, and the focal point of almost every human interaction. We are taught from a very young age to control our faces, to smile when we are not happy, to look calm when we are panicking, and to put on a brave face when we are sad. Because of this social training, many people believe the face is the easiest part of the body to fake. But they are wrong. The face, for those who know how to watch it, is a source of astonishingly honest information. It leaks the truth constantly. The key is knowing the difference between a deliberate, constructed expression and a genuine, involuntary, emotional one. In this chapter, you will learn to become a connoisseur of the human face. You will learn the difference between a real smile and a fake one so clearly that it will feel like the difference between a real diamond and a piece of glass. More importantly, we will embark on a deep dive into the 7 universal emotions, the fundamental emotional language that is shared by every single human being on the planet, regardless of culture or upbringing. This is not about learning to judge people. It is about learning to see them, to understand their inner world, and to connect with them on a level of authentic human empathy that you may have never thought possible. Your power of observation is about to become razor sharp. Let us begin with the most common and perhaps the most misunderstood facial expression of all, the smile. A smile can be an invitation, a sign of joy, a polite social gesture, a mask for anxiety, or even a signal of submission. How can one expression mean so many different things? The secret lies in understanding its anatomy. We touched upon this in our chapter on the eyes, but it is so fundamentally important that we must explore it in much greater detail. The distinction you must learn to make is between the genuine smile of happiness, known as the Duchenne smile, and the social or fake smile, sometimes called the Pan Am smile. This second name comes from the now-defunct airline whose flight attendants were famous for their constant and often forced smiles. A social smile is a conscious action. You decide to do it. It only involves one primary muscle, the zygomatic major muscle, which pulls the corners of your lips up and outwards. It is the smile you use when a stranger tells you to smile for the camera, or when you are trying to be polite to someone you do not particularly like. It is a smile of the mouth only. A Duchenne smile, named after the French neurologist Guillaume Duchenne, who first identified it in the 19th century, is entirely different. It is an involuntary reaction to genuine positive emotion. It is a smile of the soul. It involves not only the zygomatic major muscle around the mouth, but also, crucially, the orbicularis oculi muscles, which encircle the eyes. When you're truly happy, these muscles contract, squeezing the eyes into a slightly different shape. This action creates a little puffiness under the eyes, makes the cheeks rise, and, most recognizably, creates the small wrinkles at the outer corners of the eyes that we call crow's feet. This is the tell, this is the signature of real joy. A person can easily command their mouth to smile, but it is nearly impossible to consciously contract those muscles around the eyes in a convincing way. They only fire authentically when you feel a true spark of happiness. Your first mission is to become a Duchenne smile spotter. This is a joyful and positive exercise. For the next week, I want you to make a conscious effort to look for real smiles. Watch your loved ones when they are laughing at a joke. Look at a child playing with a new toy. Observe a friend who is genuinely happy to see you. Look for the eyes. Do they crinkle at the corners? Do the cheeks bunch up? Do the eyes themselves seem to sparkle with light? Once you can clearly see the physical difference, you will begin to feel the emotional difference. A social smile is received by your brain as a piece of polite data. A Duchenne smile is received as a genuine transfer of positive emotion. It makes you feel good just to see it. Conversely, you will also become acutely aware of its absence. You will notice when a politician smiles for the cameras but their eyes remain cold and lifeless. You will see when a salesperson gives you a wide smile, but there is no crinkling at the eyes, signaling that it is a tool of their trade, not a genuine feeling. This is not about becoming cynical. It is about becoming discerning. It allows you to know when someone's happiness is real and when it is a performance. This knowledge allows you to connect with genuine joy and to be more curious about what might be hiding behind a forced smile. Now we must venture deeper into the very core of our shared emotional landscape. In the 1960s, a brilliant psychologist named Paul Ekman conducted groundbreaking research that changed our understanding of human emotion forever. He traveled to remote cultures all over the world, including a Stone Age tribe in Papua New Guinea that had had no contact with the outside world. He showed them pictures of people from Western cultures making different facial expressions and asked them to identify the emotions. He then took pictures of the tribe's people expressing emotions and showed them to Americans. The results were astounding. He discovered that there are 7 facial expressions of emotion that are not learned, but are hardwired into our DNA. They are universal. A smile means happiness in New York City and in the remote jungles of Borneo. A scowl of anger is the same in Paris and in Tokyo. These 7 universal emotions are happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, and contempt. Learning to recognize these 7 expressions, especially when they appear as fleeting micro-expressions, is like being given a master key that can unlock the true feelings of any person you meet. Let us break them down, one by one. For each of these, I want you to try to make the expression in a mirror. Feeling the muscles on your own face is one of the fastest ways to learn to recognize them on others. First is surprise. The expression of surprise is the briefest of all the emotions. Its purpose is to get our senses ready to process an unexpected event. The eyebrows are raised and curved. The skin below the brow is stretched. Horizontal wrinkles appear across the forehead. The eyelids are opened wide, so the white of the eye is visible above and often below the iris. The jaw drops open, and the teeth are parted, but there is no tension in the mouth. It is a moment of pure, unfiltered intake of information. A true expression of surprise lasts for only about a second. If you see someone holding a surprised look on their face for longer than that, they are almost certainly faking it for effect. The key giveaway is the wide-open deer-in-the-headlights look. When you tell a friend some unexpected news and you see this flash across their face, you know you have genuinely caught them off guard. Second is fear. Fear is our internal alarm system. The facial expression of fear is designed to protect us and to signal danger to others. Like surprise, the eyebrows are raised, but they are also drawn together, and they are usually flat, not curved. Wrinkles appear in the center of the forehead, between the eyebrows, but not all the way across. The upper eyelid is raised, exposing the white of the eye, but the lower eyelid is tensed and drawn up. The mouth is often open, and the lips are stretched horizontally back towards the ears, creating a tense, squarish shape. It is a look of high alert. Imagine you are walking down a dark street, and you hear a sudden, loud noise behind you. Your face will instinctively make this expression. It maximizes your field of vision and prepares your body for a fight-or-flight response. When you see flashes of this on someone's face during a conversation, you know you have touched upon a topic that makes them feel threatened or deeply anxious. If you are a manager discussing a new company policy and you see a flicker of fear on an employee's face, it is a crucial signal that they are worried about how it will affect their job security, even if they say nothing. Third is anger. Anger is the emotion of confronting an obstacle or an injustice. It is a preparatory expression for a fight. The eyebrows are lowered and drawn together. Vertical lines appear between the eyebrows. The eyes have a hard, glaring stare. The eyelids are tense and the lower lid may be pushed up. The lips are either pressed firmly together with the corners turned down, or they are open and tensed in a squarish shape as if shouting. The nostrils may also flare. This is the face of someone who is ready to attack, verbally or physically. There is an unmistakable intensity to it. A person trying to suppress their anger might only show one or two of these components. For example, they might just have the lowered, knitted eyebrows and the tense jaw, while trying to keep their mouth neutral. This is called a subtle expression. It is a leak of the real anger they are trying to contain. Spotting this allows you to recognize that a situation is becoming tense and that you need to de-escalate it before it explodes. Fourth is disgust. Disgust is the emotion of rejection. Its evolutionary purpose is to protect us from ingesting something toxic, whether it is spoiled food or a poisonous idea. The primary muscle involved is the one that wrinkles the nose. The nose is wrinkled up, and the upper lip is raised. This sometimes causes the corners of the mouth to be pulled down. It is the face you would make if you smelled rotten milk. This expression is a powerful signal of revulsion. If you are presenting a business proposal and you see a client make a brief nose wrinkle as you mention a particular clause, it is a very honest signal that they find that part of the proposal deeply disagreeable. They may not say anything, but their face has told you that you have a major problem to overcome. Their instinctive reaction is to reject that part of your idea. Fifth is sadness. Sadness is an appeal for help and comfort. It is an expression that signals vulnerability. The key indicators are in the eyebrows and the mouth. The inner corners of the eyebrows are drawn up and together, creating a small triangle of skin in the middle of the forehead. The upper eyelids may appear to droop. The corners of the lips are pulled down. The jaw may come up, and the lower lip may push up in what we call a pout. This expression is incredibly difficult to fake. It is very hard to voluntarily move those inner eyebrow muscles. That is why when you see this, especially the movement in the eyebrows, you can be almost certain you are witnessing genuine sadness or distress. A friend might be telling you that they are doing okay after a breakup, but if you see the inner corners of their eyebrows pull up for just a moment, you have seen the truth of their pain. It is an invitation to offer genuine support and to let them know that they do not have to pretend to be strong. Sixth is happiness, which we have already covered with the Duchenne smile. The key features are the corners of the mouth being pulled up and back, and the contraction of the muscles around the eyes creating crow's feet. It is the only positive emotion in this universal set. Finally, we come to the seventh universal expression, and it is a critically important one to understand. Contempt. Contempt is the only one of the 7 emotions that is asymmetrical, meaning it only appears on one side of the face. The expression of contempt is a slight tightening and raising of one corner of the lip. It is a unilateral sneer. This emotion is a signal of moral superiority. The person feeling contempt is looking down on someone with disrespect and disdain. They feel they are better, smarter, or more moral than the other person. The renowned psychologist and relationship expert Dr. John Gottman has studied couples for decades, and his research has shown that contempt is the single most powerful predictor of divorce. He calls it one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in a relationship. When one partner frequently shows this one-sided sneer to the other, it signals a fundamental breakdown of respect. Spotting this expression is a major red flag in any relationship, whether personal or professional. It tells you that the person does not see you as an equal. Now, knowing these 7 expressions is one thing, but the real magic comes from understanding the concept of micro-expressions. Most of the time, when we feel a strong emotion, especially one that is inappropriate for the social situation, our rational brain will try to suppress it. But it is not fast enough. For a fleeting moment, a fraction of a second, the real emotion will flash across our face before our conscious mind can replace it with a more acceptable, masked expression. This flash is a micro-expression. They can be as brief as 1/25th of a second. They are so fast that most people miss them completely. But you can train yourself to see them. When you see a micro-expression, you have just seen a window into the person's true, unadulterated feelings. Let us paint a scenario. You are a manager, and you have just announced a new, challenging project to your team. You ask if everyone is on board and excited. Your employee, Tom, smiles and says, "Absolutely, sounds like a great opportunity." But just before his smile appears for a split second, you see the inner corners of his eyebrows pull up and the corners of his mouth turn down. You have just seen a micro-expression of sadness. His words say he is excited, but his face has leaked the truth. He is actually feeling sad, overwhelmed, or distressed by the news. This does not mean Tom is a liar. It means there is an incongruence between his true feelings and his socially required response. As a manager, this is invaluable information. You can now follow up with Tom privately and say something like, "I know this new project is a big ask. I wanted to check in and see how you are really feeling about the workload. You have used your observation not to accuse, but to open a door for an honest and supportive conversation." Here is another example. You are negotiating a contract with a potential business partner. You present your final offer. The partner looks at it, and for a flash of a second, you see a unilateral lip corner raise, a micro-expression of contempt. They then look up at you and say, "This is a very generous offer. Let me take it back to my team and we will get back to you." Their words are positive, but their face has revealed a deep-seated feeling of disdain. They think your offer is beneath them, or that you are trying to pull a fast one. This is a crucial piece of information. It tells you that you do not have a deal and that there is a fundamental lack of respect in the negotiation. You might have just saved yourself weeks of waiting for a no. So how do you train yourself to spot these incredibly fast expressions? It takes practice, but it is a skill anyone can learn. One of the best methods is to watch videos of people in high-stakes situations like political interviews or police interrogations and slow them down. Watch the person's face frame by frame right after a critical question is asked. You will be amazed at what you see. You can also use movies and television shows. Pause the show right after a dramatic event and analyze the characters' faces. Are they showing pure expressions, or are they masking one emotion with another? The more you expose your brain to these patterns, the faster you will become at recognizing them in real time. You are essentially building a new visual vocabulary. The face is a battlefield between our true feelings and our social mask. The expressions flicker and change, revealing the conflict within. Your role as an observer is to watch this beautiful and complex dance with curiosity and empathy. When you see a mismatch, a micro-expression that contradicts the spoken words, do not jump to the conclusion that someone is a liar. Simply recognize that you have witnessed a moment of emotional leakage. You have seen a glimpse of the truth behind the mask. This knowledge is a superpower. It allows you to respond to what people are feeling, not just what they are saying. It helps you to identify hidden concerns, to build deeper rapport, and to navigate your social world with a new level of awareness and compassion. The faces around you are talking to you all the time. It is time to start listening to what they have to say. Chapter 5. The sound of a voice, tone, pitch, and pace. We have spent a great deal of our journey together exploring the silent visual world of non-verbal communication. We have learned to read the stories told by the body, the eyes, and the face. Now, we turn our attention to a channel that is not silent, but is just as powerful and often just as unconscious as body language. We are going to learn how to listen to the music behind the words. This is the realm of paralanguage, which includes every element of a person's voice that is not the actual words they are saying. It is their tone, their pitch, their pace, their volume, and the little sounds they make in between their words. If the words are the lyrics of a song, the paralanguage is the melody, the harmony, and the rhythm. And very often, the melody tells a much more honest story than the lyrics do. Professor Albert Mehrabian's research, which we mentioned in our first chapter, attributed a massive 38% of the emotional meaning of a message to our tone of voice. This is a huge piece of the communication puzzle that most people overlook. We are often so busy processing the words someone is saying that we fail to notice the rich tapestry of emotional information woven into the sound of their voice. In this chapter, you will learn to tune your ears to this hidden frequency. You will learn how the sound of a person's voice can reveal their confidence, their nervousness, their excitement, or their sadness. You will learn that it is not what they say, but how they say it, that often holds the deepest truth. This is your masterclass in becoming a true listener, someone who hears not just the words, but the heart behind them. Let us begin with the most basic quality of the voice, pitch. Pitch is simply the highness or lowness of a sound. Everyone has a normal pitch range where their voice sits comfortably. This is their vocal baseline. Our emotions have a direct and powerful effect on the muscles in our larynx, which control our vocal cords. When we are excited, happy, or nervous, these muscles tend to tighten, causing our vocal cords to vibrate faster and our pitch to rise. Think about the sound of someone's voice when they are telling you exciting news. I got the job. Their voice naturally goes up in pitch. Now think about someone who is feeling anxious or is perhaps being deceptive. Under the stress of the situation, they lose some conscious control over those vocal muscles. The muscles tighten, and you might hear their pitch rise or even crack. This vocal crack is a very reliable indicator of a sudden spike in anxiety. If you are asking an employee a question and their voice suddenly squeaks on a particular word, you have just found a point of high stress for them. Conversely, when we are feeling calm, confident, and authoritative, our vocal muscles are relaxed. This allows our voice to sit in a lower, more resonant pitch range. A lower pitch is generally associated with power and credibility. This is why many leaders and public speakers will consciously work on speaking from a lower part of their vocal range. It makes them sound more grounded and trustworthy. Sadness also causes the pitch to drop. When a person is feeling down or depressed, their speech will often become lower in pitch and more monotonous as the energy drains from their voice. The most important thing to listen for, as always, is the change from the baseline. If your normally calm, low-pitched friend suddenly starts speaking in a much higher pitch, you know something is up. Their emotional state has shifted, and their voice is the first clue. Closely related to pitch is inflection. Inflection is the variation of pitch within a sentence. It is the melody of our speech. A voice that is rich in inflection, that goes up and down in a natural, melodic way, is perceived as engaging, interesting, and emotionally expressive. A lack of inflection results in a monotone voice. A monotone can signal boredom, disinterest, or depression. It can also be a conscious strategy used by someone who is trying to hide their emotions. By stripping all the melody from their voice, they are trying to give you as little information as possible. However, one of the most common and confidence-draining vocal patterns is the upward inflection, also known as uptalk. This is when a person ends a declarative statement as if it were a question, with their pitch rising at the end. For example, instead of saying, my name is John, with a downward inflection, they say, my name is John. This vocal habit can make a person sound insecure, as if they are seeking approval or are unsure of what they are saying. It undermines their authority and credibility. Listening for uptalk can give you clues about a person's level of confidence in what they are asserting. Next, let us tune our ears to the pace or tempo of speech. This is the speed at which someone talks. Just like pitch, everyone has a normal baseline pace. And just like pitch, our emotions can dramatically alter that pace. When a person is excited, passionate, or anxious, their rate of speech will often increase. Their brain is working quickly and their mouth is trying to keep up. If you are trying to sell an idea and you notice the other person's speech rate starts to increase as they ask questions, it is a great sign that you have captured their interest and they are becoming excited about the possibilities. However, a rapid pace can also be a sign of nervousness. A person in a job interview who is speaking a mile a minute is likely feeling the pressure. A rapid pace can also be a red flag for deception. Sometimes, a person who is lying will try to rush through the deceptive part of their story. They feel uncomfortable with the lie, so they subconsciously speed up to get past it as quickly as possible. If you are listening to someone's story, and it is flowing at a normal, relaxed pace, but then it suddenly speeds up for a crucial section before returning to normal, you should mentally circle that section. It is a vocal hotspot that warrants further, gentle investigation. On the other hand, a slow pace of speech can signal many different things depending on the context. It can be a sign of thoughtfulness and deliberation. A person who is choosing their words carefully will naturally speak more slowly. It can be a sign of confidence and authority. A speaker who is in control of their message and their audience will often use a slower, more deliberate pace for emphasis. But a slow pace can also be a sign of sadness, fatigue, or depression. Just as the energy drains from the pitch of a sad person's voice, it also drains from their pace. And in some contexts, a slow pace can be used as a form of condescension, as if the person is speaking slowly so that you can understand their supposedly brilliant ideas. Once again, the key is to first establish a baseline and then listen for the changes. A sudden shift in the speed of speech is a direct report from the person's emotional command center. Now let us consider volume. The loudness or softness of a voice is a very direct and primal signal. A loud voice commands attention. It can signal excitement, as in a cheer at a sports game. It can signal anger and aggression, as the person tries to dominate the conversation with sheer force of sound. It can also signal confidence and a desire to be heard. A soft voice, in contrast, can signal shyness, insecurity, or a lack of confidence. It can be a sign of sadness, where the person does not have the physical energy to project their voice. But a soft voice can also be used strategically. A person might lower their volume to signal secrecy, drawing you in to share a piece of confidential information. It can also be a sign of intimacy, as we naturally speak more softly to those we are physically and emotionally close to. A sudden drop in volume can be a powerful tool for emphasis, forcing the listener to lean in and pay closer attention. A sudden increase in volume is an attempt to assert dominance or express strong emotion. By paying attention to the ebb and flow of volume, you can understand the power dynamics and the emotional temperature of any conversation. Beyond pitch, pace, and volume, there is the more subtle quality of tone, sometimes called timbre. This is the emotional color of the voice. It is the quality that makes a voice sound warm, harsh, breathy, nasal, or resonant. The tone of voice is where congruence is most often tested. As we discussed in Chapter 1, congruence is the match between the words and the non-verbal signals. Sarcasm is a perfect example of tonal incongruence. The person says the words, "What a brilliant idea," but their tone is cold, clipped, and mocking. The tone completely reverses the meaning of the words. This is an obvious example, but the mismatches are often more subtle. Think of a friend who has just suffered a disappointment. You ask them how they are and they say, "I am fine, really." But their tone is flat, heavy, and lacks resonance. It is the tone of sadness. Their words are a social nicety, but their tone is telling you the truth of their emotional state. A truly skilled listener learns to trust the tone more than the words. If the tone and the words are in conflict, believe the tone. To become a better reader of tone, you need to expand your vocabulary for describing it. Is the voice breathy? A breathy quality can signal arousal and attraction, or it can signal nervousness and anxiety, as the person is literally short of breath. Is the voice harsh and gravelly? This can signal tension and anger, as the muscles in the throat are constricted. Is the voice warm and resonant? This signals relaxation, confidence, and openness. By consciously trying to label the tonal quality you are hearing, you will train your ear to become much more sensitive, to these subtle emotional cues. Finally, we must learn to appreciate the sounds of silence and the little non-words that fill the spaces in between. The way a person uses pauses is incredibly revealing. A speaker who is comfortable with silence, who can pause for a moment to let a point sink in or to gather their thoughts, appears confident and in control. This is the confidence pause. It creates dramatic tension and makes the listener pay more attention. On the other hand, a person who is uncomfortable with silence will often fill every possible gap with vocal fillers. These are the ums, ahs, ears, likes, and you-knows that litter our speech. While everyone uses some fillers, an excessive amount of them can signal a lack of confidence, a lack of preparation or anxiety. It can also be a signal of deception. When a person is inventing a story, their brain is working overtime. It needs a moment to think of the next part of the lie. These vocal fillers are like little verbal stalls that the person uses to buy their brain a few extra milliseconds. If a person's speech is normally fluid, but it suddenly becomes filled with hesitations and fillers, when you ask about a specific topic, you have likely found an area of uncertainty or deception. Other sounds are also rich with meaning. A sigh, for example, can mean many different things depending on the context and the other non-verbal cues. A deep sigh after a long, hard day can be a sign of relief. A sigh in the middle of a difficult conversation can be a sign of sadness, frustration, or exasperation. A sudden gasp is a clear signal of surprise or fear. Frequent throat clearing can be a sign of anxiety or stress. The person is not clearing their throat because it is physically necessary. They are doing it because the stress is causing a feeling of tightness that they are trying to relieve. These little sounds are the unguarded, unfiltered reactions of the body to an emotional state. They are leaks from the subconscious. So how can you practice this skill of deep listening? One of the most effective exercises is to listen to conversations without being able to see the speakers. Put on a radio show or a podcast, close your eyes, and just listen. Try to build a picture of the speaker's emotional state based solely on their voice. Is their pitch high or low? Is their pace fast or slow? Is their tone warm or cold? Are they using a lot of fillers? What emotions do you hear behind their words? This exercise strips away all the visual cues and forces you to focus with great intensity on the vocal channel. Another powerful exercise is to record your own voice. Record yourself talking about something you are passionate and knowledgeable about. Then record yourself talking about something that makes you uncomfortable or that you are unsure about. Listen back to the two recordings. You will likely be shocked at the difference in your own vocal patterns. Hearing the insecurity in your own voice is a powerful lesson in how vocal cues work. In every conversation you have, you are being given two messages at once, the verbal message and the paralinguistic message. The unskilled listener only hears the words. The skilled listener, the person you are becoming, hears the music as well. You understand that the rising pitch signals anxiety, the slow pace signals sadness, the warm tone signals rapport, and the sudden hesitation signals a hidden problem. By learning to listen with this new level of awareness, you move beyond the surface of communication. You connect with the emotional truth of the situation. You can respond to a friend's hidden sadness, recognize a colleague's unspoken anxiety, and sense the true level of confidence in a business partner. The human voice is the most incredible instrument. It can convey the entire spectrum of human experience. You have now been given the sheet music. All you have to do is listen. Chapter 6. The energy you feel. Intuition and gut feelings. We have spent our journey so far learning to be exceptional observers of the external world. We have trained our eyes to see the subtle dance of the human body, the truth in a fleeting micro-expression, and the story told by a person's gaze. We have trained our ears to hear the music behind the words, the emotional melody in the tone, pitch, and pace of a voice. You are building an incredible toolkit of analytical skills. But now, we must turn our attention inward. We must learn to use the most sophisticated and mysterious instrument of perception you will ever own. Your own intuition. You have felt it before. It is that quiet whisper in a loud room. It is the knot in your stomach that tells you a deal is too good to be true. It is the sudden, inexplicable feeling of warmth and trust you get from a complete stranger. We call it a gut feeling, a hunch, a sixth sense. For centuries, this phenomenon was dismissed as mystical or illogical. But modern science is beginning to understand that your intuition is not magic. It is a very real, very powerful, and very biological form of intelligence. It is your subconscious mind, the vast and silent supercomputer between your ears, communicating with you in the only language it knows, the language of feeling. In this chapter, you will learn to honor, understand, and cultivate this incredible inner guidance system. You will learn to distinguish the clear signal of intuition from the noisy static of fear and bias. This is not about abandoning logic. It is about integrating it with a deeper, more holistic way of knowing. You are about to unlock a power that has been with you since the day you were born, the power to feel the truth. So, what exactly is this gut feeling? Where does it come from? The term gut feeling is surprisingly literal. Your digestive tract is lined with a network of neurons so extensive that scientists have nicknamed it the second brain. This network, officially called the enteric nervous system, is in constant communication with the brain in your head via a massive nerve called the vagus nerve. This is a two-way information highway. Not only does your brain send signals to your gut to digest food, but your gut sends a massive amount of information back up to your brain, profoundly influencing your mood, your stress levels, and your decisions. When you walk into a room and your stomach suddenly clenches with a feeling of dread, that is not a random occurrence. Your second brain is reacting to something in the environment and sending an urgent danger signal straight to your primary brain, bypassing your conscious, logical thought processes. At the same time, the brain in your head is a pattern recognition machine of unimaginable power. Every single experience you have ever had, every face you have ever seen, every tone of voice you have ever heard, is stored away in the vast library of your subconscious mind. When you meet someone new, your subconscious brain instantly cross-references them against every other person you have ever met. It analyzes their posture, their micro-expressions, the tiny shifts in their vocal tone, all the things we have been learning to spot consciously. It does this at a speed that is far too fast for your conscious mind to follow. If it detects a mismatch, an incongruence between the person's friendly words and a fleeting micro-expression of contempt that it recognizes from a past negative experience, it will not send you a detailed logical report. It does not have time for that. Instead, it sends you a simple, powerful signal, a feeling of unease, a gut feeling that something is not right. This is the essence of intuition. It is your subconscious mind's pattern recognition ability speaking to you in the language of physical sensation and emotion. The psychologist Malcolm Gladwell wrote about this phenomenon in his book Blink, calling it thin slicing. It is the ability to find patterns in events based on narrow windows of experience. Your intuition is your personal built-in thin slicer, and it is working for you all the time. The challenge is that most of us have been trained to ignore this subtle intelligence. From a young age, we are taught to prioritize logic, reason, and data. We are told not to be too emotional. We learn to silence that quiet inner voice in favor of the loud, demanding voice of our rational mind. The result is that our intuitive muscle has become weak from lack of use. Our mission in this chapter is to put that muscle back into a regular training program. The first and most crucial step in this training is learning to tell the difference between a true intuitive hit and its two great imposters, fear and bias. This is the most common reason people distrust their intuition. They mistake a fear-based reaction for a gut feeling, follow it, get a bad result, and then conclude that their gut cannot be trusted. Learning to separate these signals is a skill that will change the way you navigate the world. Let us create a field guide to your inner feelings. A true intuitive signal has a very distinct quality. It feels neutral, calm, and detached. It is like a quiet, persistent whisper. It does not come with a lot of emotional charge. It is simply a piece of information, an observation. It might feel like a quiet knowing or a sense of something is off here. It often makes you curious. You might feel a sense of unease about a person, and your next thought is, I wonder what it is about them that is making me feel this way. This curiosity is a hallmark of true intuition. It opens you up to gathering more information. It encourages you to use the observational skills we have been developing, to look for the clusters and congruencies that can confirm or deny the initial feeling. The gut feeling does not scream, it informs. Fear, on the other hand, is loud, frantic, and emotionally charged. It is a bully. Fear is almost always rooted in the past or the future. It brings up old traumas and projects worst-case scenarios onto the future. If you are considering a new job opportunity and your mind is flooded with loud, panicked thoughts like, what if I fail? What if they fire me? I am not good enough for this. It is going to be a disaster. That is the voice of fear. It feels constrictive. It makes you want to retreat and play it safe. You might feel it as a racing heart, shallow breathing, or a frantic energy in your chest. Fear is a story you are telling yourself. Intuition is an observation you are making. Fear shouts, danger, run away. Intuition whispers, pay attention. Something is not quite right here. The difference is enormous. Fear closes you down. Intuition opens you up to more awareness. The other imposter is bias or prejudice. Bias is your rational mind trying to be efficient by using old, outdated shortcuts. It is a preformed judgment, a label you slap onto a person or situation based on stereotypes. If you meet someone from a certain background and your mind immediately concludes, people from that background are all like this, that is bias. It feels rigid and absolute. It has a quality of I already know the answer. It shuts down all curiosity and observation. You stop seeing the individual in front of you and only see the label you have projected onto them. A true intuitive feeling is always about the specific person or situation in the present moment. It is a reaction to their unique energy and behavior, not to a category they belong to. Bias is a mental shortcut that prevents you from seeing the truth. Intuition is a deep dive that reveals it. So how do we begin the practical work of strengthening our intuition and tuning out the noise of fear and bias? It begins with creating space for the quiet voice to be heard. The first and most powerful practice for this is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the simple act of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It is about becoming an observer of your own thoughts and feelings rather than being swept away by them. You can start with just 5 minutes a day. Find a quiet place to sit, close your eyes, and simply bring your attention to the sensation of your breath going in and out. Your mind will wander. That is what minds do. The practice is not to stop the mind from wandering, but to gently, without judgment, notice that it has wandered and guide it back to your breath, over and over again. What this simple practice does is revolutionary. It trains you to create a space between you and your thoughts. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of your thoughts. This creates a separation from the loud voice of fear. You can see the anxious thought arise, and instead of becoming it, you can simply observe it. Ah, there is a fearful thought. This creates the mental quiet necessary for the subtle whisper of intuition to finally be heard. The second practice is to start an intuition journal. This is your personal laboratory for tracking your gut feelings. Get a small notebook and keep it with you. Whenever you have a strong gut feeling about something or someone, write it down. Be as specific as possible. Do not just write, I have a bad feeling about Bob. Write down what the feeling is, where you feel it in your body, a knot in the stomach, a tightness in the chest, and what specifically you observed that might have triggered it. When I asked Bob about the project deadline, his smile did not reach his eyes, and his voice went up in pitch. My gut feeling is that he is not telling me the full story. Then, and this is the crucial part, you must track the outcome. A week later, you might find out that Bob was indeed hiding a major problem with the project. You would then write down in your journal, outcome, my gut feeling was correct. Or you might find out that Bob was just having a bad day because of a personal issue and the project was fine. You would write that down too. This process is not about being right all the time. It is about calibration. By tracking both your hits and your misses, you will start to learn the specific flavor of your own intuition. You will learn what your personal uh-oh signal feels like. Over time, as you see more and more evidence of your intuition being correct, you will build a deep and unshakable trust in your own inner guidance system. The third practice is to consciously tune in to your body. Your body is the antenna for your intuition. It is constantly receiving signals. Throughout your day, take a few moments to do a quick body scan. Close your eyes and bring your attention to your feet. Then your legs, your stomach, your chest, your arms, your neck, your head. Just notice what sensations are there without needing to change them. Is there tension in your shoulders? Is there a feeling of openness in your chest? Is there a fluttering in your stomach? Start to connect these physical sensations to the situations you are in. You might notice that every time you talk to a particular colleague, your shoulders tense up. Your body is telling you that you do not feel safe or relaxed around this person. You might notice that when you are working on a project that you love, you feel a sense of warmth and expansion in your chest. Your body is telling you that you are in alignment with your passion. Your body is speaking to you all the time. Your job is to learn to listen to its subtle language. An important part of this journey is understanding the concept of emotional contagion. We are social creatures, and we are wired for connection. Part of that wiring includes a network of special brain cells called mirror neurons. These neurons fire not only when we perform an action, but also when we see someone else perform that same action. When you see someone smile, your mirror neurons for smiling fire, and you feel a little flicker of happiness. When you see someone in pain, your mirror neurons for pain fire, and you feel a twinge of their suffering. This is the biological basis of empathy. It is also the reason emotions can be so contagious. If you walk into a meeting where one person is radiating intense anxiety, your mirror neuron system will pick up on their signals, their tense posture, their shallow breathing, their darting eyes. You may find yourself starting to feel anxious as well, even if you have no logical reason to be. You have caught their emotional state. This is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allows us to feel what others are feeling, which is a key part of reading them. Your ability to sense the mood of a room is a form of intuitive intelligence based on emotional contagion. You walk into your home, and you can just feel that the atmosphere is tense. You have not heard any words, but your body has picked up on the non-verbal signals of tension from your family members and has translated that into a feeling. On the other hand, if you are not aware of this process, you can easily mistake other people's emotions for your own. You might think you are feeling anxious, when in reality you are just sitting next to a very anxious person. The key is to develop emotional self-awareness. When you feel a strong emotion arise, especially when it seems to come out of nowhere, you can use a simple mindfulness technique. Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself a simple question. Is this feeling mine? Sometimes the answer will be yes, but you will be surprised how often you realize that the feeling you are experiencing actually belongs to someone else in the room. This allows you to use emotional contagion as a tool for understanding, without becoming a victim of it. You can recognize, I am sensing a lot of anxiety from Sarah, which is valuable information without having to take on that anxiety as your own. You can remain the calm center in an emotional storm. You can empower yourself and strengthen your intuition by starting small in low-stakes situations. Treat it like a game. When the phone rings, before you look at it, take a second and guess who might be calling. When you are about to open an email, try to sense what the tone of the message will be. When you are walking towards a room, try to get a feel for the energy inside before you open the door. Do not worry about being right or wrong. The goal is simply to get into the habit of asking the question, of consulting your intuition on a regular basis. Just like lifting weights at the gym, the more reps you do, the stronger the muscle will become. You are training your brain to pay attention to a different stream of information. The ultimate goal is to integrate your intuition with your analytical skills. It is not about intuition versus logic. It is about intuition and logic working together as a team. Your intuition is your early warning system. It is the scout that goes out ahead and senses the landscape. When your gut gives you a signal, a feeling of unease or a feeling of rightness, that is not the end of the process. That is the beginning. That is the cue for your conscious, analytical mind to get to work. If your gut tells you something is off about a business deal, you do not just walk away. You listen to that signal, and then you use your rational mind to investigate. You say, my gut is telling me to be careful here, so I am going to double-check the contract. I am going to do more research on this company. I'm going to ask more pointed questions in our next meeting. You use the observational skills from our previous chapters to look for the specific nonverbal cues that might be triggering your intuition. The intuition points you in the right direction, and the analytical mind gathers the evidence. When both your gut and your head are aligned, when the feeling and the facts are telling you the same story, that is when you can act with true confidence and clarity. You are a being of immense wisdom and perception. For too long, you may have been relying on only one half of your intelligence, the logical, conscious part. But there is a vast, powerful, and deeply wise part of you that has been waiting patiently to be heard. Your intuition is your birthright. It is the compass of your soul, always ready to point you toward truth and away from falsehood. Learning to trust it is one of the most profound acts of self-trust you can ever perform. Be patient with the process. Be curious. Be willing to listen to the quiet whispers of your own inner knowing. The more you listen, the louder and clearer they will become. You have a supercomputer within you. It is time to turn it on. Chapter 7. Putting it all together. Creating a full picture. In our journey together, we have taken a deep dive into the individual elements of reading people. We have learned to decode the silent language of the body, to find the truth in the eyes, to uncover emotions in the subtleties of the face, and to hear the hidden music in the voice. We have even learned to listen to the whisper of our own intuition. You have learned the individual notes of the symphony of human communication. Now in this chapter, we learn to hear the music. This is where we synthesize everything we have learned. Reading people is not a checklist. You do not just spot a single gesture and jump to a conclusion. A true master of this art understands that human beings are complex and that communication is a dynamic, flowing river of information. The key is to see the whole picture, to understand how all the different channels of communication, verbal and nonverbal, interact with each other to create a single, coherent story. This chapter is about moving from being a spotter of clues to becoming a weaver of narratives. You will learn how to look for patterns, how to establish a reliable baseline of behavior, and how to spot the crucial moments of incongruence that reveal the truth behind the mask. This is the culmination of your training, the moment where you transform your knowledge into a fluid, adaptable, and powerful skill that you can use in any situation with any person. You are about to become not just a reader of people, but an understander of the human experience. Let us begin by revisiting and expanding upon two of the most critical concepts we have introduced: clusters and the baseline. These are the twin pillars upon which all accurate readings are built. You will remember that a cluster is a group of non-verbal signals that all happen at or around the same time and all point to the same conclusion. We must move beyond the simple idea of looking for a cluster and start to understand the different flavors of clusters you will encounter. Think of yourself as a detective building a case. A single piece of evidence is interesting, but it does not prove anything. A collection of different pieces of evidence all pointing to the same suspect. That is how you build a strong case. Let us explore some of the most common and important clusters you should be hunting for. First, there is the high comfort and rapport cluster. This is the collection of signals that tells you a person feels safe, comfortable, and connected with you. It is the green light of communication. The signals in this cluster might include an open posture, with uncrossed arms and legs. You will see genuine Duchenne smiles that reach the eyes. Their body and feet will be oriented towards you. They will likely mirror your posture and gestures, a powerful subconscious sign of rapport. Their eye contact will be steady and relaxed, in the social gaze pattern. Their voice will have a warm tone and a melodic inflection. When you see this beautiful collection of signals, you can be confident that you have built a strong foundation of trust and that the communication is flowing freely. Next, there is the high discomfort and stress cluster. This is the red light. It is the collection of signals that tells you a person is feeling anxious, threatened, or is possibly being deceptive. The signals here are numerous. You might see a closed-off posture, such as arms crossed tightly over the chest or holding an object as a barrier. You will see a lack of eye contact, or eyes that are darting around the room. You will likely observe a number of self-soothing gestures or adapters, such as face-touching, rubbing the back of the neck, or hand-wringing. Their feet may be pointing towards the exit, signaling a desire to escape. Their blink rate may increase dramatically. Their voice might become higher in pitch, or it might become a flat monotone. You might hear an increase in vocal fillers like and ah. When you observe this cluster, especially when it appears suddenly in response to a specific question or topic, you know you have hit a nerve. It is a massive signal to proceed with caution and curiosity. Then there is the powerful high confidence and authority cluster. This is the signal of a person who is feeling in control of themselves and the situation. Here you will see expansive, high-power poses. They will take up space. They may use the hand steeple gesture, a very reliable indicator of confidence. Their eye contact will be firm and steady, perhaps even using the power gaze we discussed. Their voice will be in a lower pitch range, with a steady pace and few, if any, vocal fillers. They will be comfortable with pauses and silence, using them for emphasis. They will use authoritative gestures such as palm-down movements. When you are in a negotiation and the person across the table is displaying this cluster, you know you are dealing with someone who has a strong belief in their position. These are just a few examples. You can look for clusters of attraction, clusters of sadness, clusters of anger. The art is in seeing how the different body parts are all singing the same song. The face, the body, and the voice are all in harmony. When you can reliably spot these clusters, you move beyond guessing and into the realm of informed observation. The second pillar, the baseline, is just as crucial. As we have said, you cannot know what is abnormal until you know what is normal for a person. Reading people is not about judging a single action, it is about spotting the change. But how do you establish a baseline for someone you have just met? This is where you must become a masterful conversationalist. The key is to start every new interaction with a few minutes of non-threatening, rapport-building conversation. Think of this as the calibration phase. You ask simple, easy questions that have no emotional charge. You can ask about their journey to the meeting, the weather, a recent holiday, or a local sports team. The topic does not matter. What matters is that while they are answering these easy questions, you are observing them intently. You are not just listening to their words, you are creating a mental snapshot of their normal. How do they normally sit? What is their normal amount of eye contact? What is their normal blink rate? What is their normal pace and pitch of speech? What are their typical hand gestures when they are relaxed? This is their baseline. Once you have this baseline established in your mind, you can then proceed to the more serious part of the conversation. Now, and only now, are you in a position to spot the meaningful signals? When you ask them about the one part of their resume that seems a bit vague, and you suddenly see their blink rate double, their posture close off, and their hand go up to touch their neck, that is a significant deviation from the baseline. You have just witnessed a stress response in real time. Without having established the baseline first, you might have just dismissed them as a fidgety person. But because you took the time to calibrate, you know that this cluster of behaviors is a direct response to your question. The change is the message. This brings us to the ultimate skill in reading people, the detection and interpretation of incongruence. Congruence, as we know, is when all the channels of communication are aligned. The words, the voice, the face, and the body are all telling the same story. This is a sign of authenticity. Incongruence is the opposite. It is a mismatch. The words are saying one thing, but the body or the voice is saying something else. When you spot incongruence, you have struck gold. You have just discovered a point of internal conflict within the person. This is where the truth is leaking out. There are many levels of incongruence to watch for. The most obvious is the mismatch between words and body language. The classic example is the person who says, "Yes, I am completely open to your idea," while simultaneously crossing their arms tightly across their chest. The body is saying no, while the mouth is saying yes. In this battle, the body almost always wins. Another example is the head nod. If you ask someone a question and they say yes, but you see a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of the head from side to side, you have just witnessed their body betraying their words. This is a highly reliable tell of deception, or at the very least, a profound lack of commitment to what they are saying. You must also look for incongruence between different parts of the body. For example, a person might be trying to project a confident, open image with the top half of their body. They might have a nice smile and an open posture with their arms, but if you look under the table, you might see their foot is tapping a frantic, anxious rhythm on the floor. The top half of their body is performing. but the lower, less conscious half is leaking their true anxiety. This is why it is so important to observe the entire person, from head to toe. There is also the critical incongruence between the voice and the words, or the voice and the face. A person might say, "I am so excited about this project," but their voice is flat, lifeless, and monotone. The lack of vocal energy completely contradicts the enthusiastic words. Or a person might be smiling, but their tone of voice is cold and clipped. You can feel the tension and anger behind the smiling mask. When you detect these mismatches, your internal alarm should go off. Not an alarm of accusation, but an alarm of curiosity. Why is there a conflict here? What is the feeling they are trying to hide? So how do we put all of this together into a practical, step-by-step method that you can use in any real-world situation? Let us create a simple 5-step framework. Think of it as your observation ritual. Step 1 is to relax and observe. Before you even begin to analyze, your first job is to get out of your own head. Take a deep breath. Quiet your own mental chatter. Your goal is to be a calm, receptive observer, like a satellite dish pointed at the other person, taking in all the signals without judgment. If you are busy thinking about what you are going to say next, you will miss everything. Be present. Step 2 is to establish the baseline. As we have discussed, begin the interaction with a few minutes of neutral, easy conversation. During this time, your primary task is data collection. Observe their normal posture, gestures, eye contact, and vocal patterns. This is your anchor point for everything that follows. Step 3 is to watch for the shift. As the conversation moves to more meaningful or stressful topics, your focus should now be on looking for changes. Look for deviations from the baseline. Did their posture suddenly change from open to closed? Did their blink rate suddenly increase? Did their voice suddenly go up in pitch? Did a new self-soothing gesture suddenly appear? Pinpoint the exact moment the shift occurred. What was the trigger? What was the question or topic that caused the change in their behavior? Step 4 is to identify the cluster and look for congruence. When you spot a shift, do not fixate on the single signal. Immediately look for other signals that support it. Did the change in posture come with a change in eye contact and a shift in vocal tone? Are all the signals telling the same story? Or is there incongruence? Are they saying yes while their body is saying no? Are they smiling while their voice sounds angry? The cluster gives you confidence in your reading, and the incongruence tells you where the internal conflict lies. Step 5 is to test your hypothesis with curious questions. This is the step that separates a passive observer from an emotionally intelligent communicator. Your observations are not judgments, they are hypotheses. Your feeling might be, "I believe this person is feeling anxious about the deadline." You do not say, "You seem really anxious." That would be accusatory and would likely make them defensive. Instead, you use your observation to formulate a gentle, empathetic, and probing question. You could say something like, "The deadline on this project is quite tight. I am just wondering how you are feeling about the timeline." This question opens the door for them to share their true feelings without feeling judged. You are using your superpower of observation to build a bridge of understanding, not to win a point. You are showing them that you are paying attention on a deeper level, which in itself builds immense rapport. Let us walk through a detailed scenario. Imagine you are on a first date. Your goal is to determine if there is a genuine connection. You begin with step 1, relaxing and being present. For step 2, you establish the baseline during the initial small talk about your jobs and hobbies. You notice your date has a normally relaxed posture, makes good eye contact, and has a warm, melodic voice. They gesture moderately with their hands when they talk. This is their baseline of comfort. Now, you move into the conversation. You are watching for shifts. You tell a story from your childhood. As you do, you see them lean in slightly, their pupils dilate a little, and a genuine Duchenne smile appears. You have just seen a shift, and in step 4 you identify it as a cluster of interest and engagement. This is a great sign. Later, you ask them about their last relationship. At that moment, you see a shift. Their eyes briefly break contact and look down. Their hand comes up and touches their neck. Their voice becomes a little flatter. You have just identified a cluster of discomfort. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It is a sensitive topic, and their body is honestly reflecting that. Now for step 5. You do not say, "You seem uncomfortable talking about your ex." Instead, you test your hypothesis gently. You could soften your approach and say, "I am sorry, I do not mean to ask questions that are too personal. We can absolutely talk about something else." By responding to their non-verbal cues with empathy, you show them that you are a safe and observant person, which paradoxically can increase their feelings of trust and comfort with you. This 5-step process is your new framework for every interaction. It is a continuous loop. Observe, baseline, shift, cluster, test. With practice, it will become second nature. It will become so fast and intuitive that you will not even have to think about the steps. You will simply be doing it. You will be absorbing a holistic picture of the person in front of you, understanding their emotional state as clearly as you understand their words. This is the art of reading people. It is not a collection of clever tricks. It is a state of heightened awareness. It is a commitment to paying attention. It is a desire to understand the truth of another person's experience. You have all the tools now. You have learned the alphabet, the vocabulary, and the grammar of this silent language. Now it is time to go out into the world and start having a much deeper conversation. Chapter 8. Spotting Deception. Is there a lie detector inside you? We have now arrived at the chapter that many of you have been waiting for. The topic that is often the most sensationalized and misunderstood aspect of reading people, spotting deception. Let us begin by clearing the air and dismantling a very dangerous myth. There is no single definitive sign of lying. There is no Pinocchio's nose that grows every time someone tells a fib. No single gesture, no eye twitch, no vocal quiver that in isolation can tell you with 100% certainty that a person is being deceptive. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a fantasy. The skills you are about to learn are not about becoming a human lie detector, capable of delivering verdicts on the truthfulness of others. That would be an arrogant and foolish goal. Instead, this chapter is about something far more subtle and powerful. It is about learning to spot the signs of discomfort, stress, and inner conflict. Deception causes stress, and that stress often leaks out in predictable verbal and non-verbal ways. Your job is not to become a prosecutor who shouts, "Aha! You touched your neck. You must be lying." Your job is to become a sensitive and astute detective of the human condition, one who recognizes when a person's inner state is in turmoil and uses that recognition to seek the deeper truth with curiosity and wisdom. To embark on this journey is to take on a great responsibility. This knowledge can be used to build bridges of understanding or to build walls of suspicion. The choice, as always, will be yours. To truly understand why deception leaks out, we must first appreciate why lying is such hard work for the human brain. Honesty is the brain's default setting. It is easy. When you tell the truth, you are simply recalling a stored memory. It requires very little mental energy. Lying, on the other hand, is an act of creation, and it places an enormous strain on our mental resources. This strain is known as cognitive load. When a person is lying, their brain is simultaneously juggling at least 5 incredibly difficult tasks, and it is this overwhelming mental effort that often causes the verbal and non-verbal signals to break down. First, the liar must invent a plausible story. This is not easy. The story has to be internally consistent, and it has to fit with the known facts that the listener is already aware of. It requires a significant amount of creative energy on the fly. Second, the liar must remember the details of their invented story so that they can remain consistent if questioned further. This places a heavy burden on their short-term memory. Third, and this is a crucial point, the liar must actively suppress the truth. The real memory is still in their head, trying to get out. The brain has to expend a huge amount of energy to hold that truth back, to build a mental dam to stop it from flowing out. This internal battle between the truth and the lie is a major source of stress. Fourth, the liar must manage their own emotions. They are likely feeling a potent cocktail of guilt about the lie and, more powerfully, a deep-seated fear of being caught. This fear triggers the body's fight-or-flight response, leading to many of the physiological signs we will discuss. They are trying to look calm and relaxed, while their internal alarm bells are screaming. Fifth, the liar has to constantly monitor the listener. They are watching your face, your body language, trying to see if you are buying their story. This adds another layer of mental processing to their already overloaded brain. When the brain is under this much cognitive load, it starts to run out of processing power. It has to divert resources away from other functions. One of the first things to suffer is control over unconscious body language. The brain becomes so focused on the complex task of lying that it forgets to manage the little gestures, the vocal tone, and the fleeting facial expressions that can give the game away. This is where the leakage happens. You are not looking for a lie sign. You are looking for the signs of a brain that is struggling under a heavy cognitive load. You are looking for the cracks in the performance. Let us organize these cracks into the three main channels of communication: the words themselves, the sound of the voice, and the signals of the body. We will look for clusters of signals across all three channels to build our case. First, let us examine the verbal cues of deception. The words a person chooses or avoids can be incredibly revealing. Liars will often use what are called non-specific denials. Instead of a direct, simple, "I did not do it," they might say something more abstract like, "I would never do a thing like that." This is a way of distancing themselves from the specific act. Similarly, liars may suddenly use overly formal or distancing language. Richard Nixon, during the Watergate scandal, famously said, "I had no prior knowledge of the Watergate break-in, a very formal construction." A truthful person would more likely say, "I did not know about the break-in." Another example is when a person refers to someone close to them in a formal way. If a husband who is having an affair suddenly starts referring to his mistress as "that woman," he is verbally trying to create distance from her. Another classic verbal tactic is to repeat the question you have just asked. If you ask, "Did you take the money from the safe?" a liar might respond, "Did I take the money from the safe? No, of course not." This is not a natural way to speak. The repetition serves two purposes. It gives their overloaded brain a few extra seconds to come up with an answer, and it allows them to hear the question again to make sure their lie will be a perfect fit. Pay close attention to the structure of their story. A truthful memory is usually recalled in a relatively straightforward, though not always perfectly linear way. People might remember a small detail later and add it in. A fabricated story is often overly linear and suspiciously smooth. It sounds rehearsed because it is. One powerful technique for testing a story is to ask the person to tell it in reverse chronological order. This is incredibly difficult to do with a fabricated story because the liar has only rehearsed it from start to finish. A person telling the truth, however, is accessing a real holistic memory and can usually recall the events in reverse, even if it is a bit clumsy. Also, listen for the level of detail. Liars will often either provide too little detail because they are afraid of getting tripped up, or they will provide an excessive amount of irrelevant detail to make the story seem more real and to distract you from the main point. Finally, listen for the use of qualifying phrases or non-contracted denials. These are phrases like, "as far as I recall, to the best of my knowledge," or "I want to be completely honest with you." People who are being completely honest do not usually feel the need to announce it. Also, a truthful person will usually use a contraction, like "I didn't do it." A liar, in an attempt to sound more emphatic, will often use the non-contracted form, "I did not do it." It sounds stronger, but it can be a sign of a forced denial. Next, let us tune our ears to the vocal cues of deception. As we learned in Chapter 5, the voice is a direct pipeline to our emotional state. The stress of lying can cause a number of telltale vocal shifts. The most common is a sudden change in pitch. The tension in the larynx can cause the voice to rise or to crack on a key word. This vocal cracking is a very reliable sign of a spike in emotional stress. Listen for sudden changes in pace. The liar might speak very slowly and deliberately as they are constructing the lie, and then speed up dramatically as they get past the deceptive part and back onto safer, truthful ground. Hesitations and vocal fillers are another huge red flag. A story that is peppered with an unusual number of ums, ahs, and ers is often a sign that the speaker's brain is working hard to create content, not just recall it. Frequent throat clearing or a sudden need to swallow can also signal a spike in anxiety, as the fight or flight response can cause a dry mouth and a feeling of tightness in the throat. The key, as always, is to listen for the shift from the person's vocal baseline. A person who is normally a fluid speaker suddenly becoming hesitant and filler-laden is a much more significant signal than the same behavior from someone who always speaks that way. Finally, we come to the most famous and most misunderstood category, the non-verbal cues of deception. This is where we must be most careful to look for clusters and to avoid jumping to conclusions based on a single gesture. The stress of lying often manifests as a desire to self-soothe. As we discussed in Chapter 3, these are the adapter gestures. You might see an increase in face touching, rubbing the chin, covering the mouth, touching the nose. The famous Pinocchio effect is not that the nose grows, but that the stress of lying can cause a genuine physiological reaction that makes the nose itchy, leading the liar to touch it. Neck touching is another classic self-soothing gesture, an attempt to comfort and protect a vulnerable area. Look for the creation of barriers. When the conversation is relaxed, the person may have an open posture. But when you ask a critical question, they may suddenly cross their arms, or pick up a coffee mug or a pillow and hold it in front of their chest. They are subconsciously putting a barrier between you and their deception. Grooming gestures can also be a sign of anxiety. A person might suddenly start adjusting their tie, smoothing down their hair, or picking lint off their shirt. This is displacement activity, a way for their nervous energy to escape. Pay very close attention to the timing of gestures. A truthful person's gestures and facial expressions will be in sync with their words. An enthusiastic yes will be accompanied by a simultaneous head nod. A liar's gestures are often out of sync. They might say yes and then, a split second later, remember that they are supposed to be nodding and add the nod as an afterthought. This delay is a sign of conscious construction rather than unconscious, authentic expression. Look for the incongruence, such as the person saying yes while subtly shaking their head no. This is a direct leak of the truth. The face is a hotbed of deceptive tells. The most powerful are the micro-expressions we studied in Chapter 4. A person might be verbally denying their anger, but you might see a flash of the lowered eyebrows and tightened lips of anger for a fraction of a second. They might be telling you they are not afraid of the consequences, but you might see a micro-expression of the raised, flat eyebrows and tensed mouth of fear. These fleeting expressions are the true emotion breaking through the mask. Eye blocking, where a person briefly closes or covers their eyes after hearing a difficult question, is another powerful tell. It is a subconscious attempt to unsee the uncomfortable reality they are being confronted with. What about eye contact itself? The old myth is that liars cannot look you in the eye. This is dangerously inaccurate. In fact, many practiced liars will consciously overcompensate by giving you too much eye contact, staring at you in an attempt to look sincere and to monitor your reaction. A more reliable cue is a sudden change from their normal pattern. If they normally give good eye contact but suddenly cannot look at you on one topic, that is significant. Now, let us put all of this together using the 5-step framework we developed in the last chapter. Imagine you are a parent and you suspect your teenager of having a party while you are away for the weekend. The house is clean, but your intuition is telling you something is off. Step 1. Relax and observe. You do not start the conversation with an accusation. You start by being calm and present. Step 2. Establish the baseline. You begin with neutral conversation. How was your weekend? Did you get your homework done? How is Sarah doing? As your teenager talks about these easy topics, you are observing their normal, relaxed baseline. They are leaning back on the sofa, making regular eye contact, and their voice is in its normal pitch. Step 3. Watch for the shift. You now introduce the stimulus, the critical question. You ask it in a neutral, non-accusatory tone. I noticed the house is incredibly clean. Did you have any friends over this weekend? This is the moment of truth. You are watching for the immediate reaction, the shift from the baseline. Step 4. Identify the cluster and look for congruence. Your teenager responds verbally, "No, it was just me. I was just bored, so I decided to clean up." But at the exact moment you asked the question, you saw a cluster of non-verbal signals. You saw them break eye contact for the first time. You saw their hand come up and rub the back of their neck. You saw them physically shift their body to angle away from you. And you heard their vocal pitch go up slightly on the word no. This is a massive cluster of high discomfort signals. You have also spotted the incongruence. The words are saying, "No, nothing happened," but the body and voice are screaming, "I am incredibly stressed right now." Step 5. Test your hypothesis with curious questions. You do not say, "You are lying, I can tell." That will only lead to a fight. You use your observations to guide your questioning. You have detected discomfort, so you probe that area gently. You might say, "That's interesting, I just got a call from Mrs. Henderson next door. She mentioned there was a lot of noise coming from the house on Saturday night. Can you tell me more about that?" You have introduced a new piece of evidence, and now you watch for the next cluster of reactions. By following the breadcrumbs of discomfort, not by making accusations, you are far more likely to get to the truth. This is the art and science of spotting deception. It is not a party trick. It is a deep skill that requires patience, practice, and a profound respect for the complexity of human beings. Remember that these signals are signs of stress, not necessarily signs of a lie. An honest person can be stressed by a false accusation. Your job is to be the calm, observant detective who gathers the evidence, looks for the patterns, and uses that knowledge not to condemn but to uncover the real story. The truth is always there in the words, in the voice, and in the body. You now have the map to find it. Use it wisely. Chapter 9. The Art of Asking the Right Questions. Unlocking Deeper Truths. We have dedicated the majority of our journey to the art of passive observation. We have learned to watch and listen, to absorb the constant stream of verbal and nonverbal information that people broadcast. This is an indispensable skill, but it is only half of the equation. To truly understand another person, you cannot simply be a passive receiver of information. You must also become an active and skilled participant in the conversation. You must learn the art of asking the right questions. A question is the most powerful tool for communication ever invented. It is not a weapon for interrogation. It is a key. The right question, asked in the right way and at the right time, can unlock a person's mind, open their heart, and reveal truths that would have otherwise remained hidden forever. A clumsy question, on the other hand, can slam those same doors shut, creating defensiveness, suspicion, and mistrust. In this chapter, you will learn to become a master locksmith of the human soul. You will learn to move beyond simple data collection and into the realm of genuine connection. The skills of observation tell you where the doors are. The skill of questioning is what allows you to open them. Prepare to transform the way you speak, the way you inquire, and the way you connect with every person you meet. Before we even begin to discuss the types of questions to ask, we must first build the foundation upon which all successful inquiries are built: psychological safety. No one will ever reveal their true thoughts or feelings to you if they do not feel safe. If they sense that you are judging them, trying to trap them, or simply waiting for your turn to speak, they will give you only their most polished and superficial answers. Creating a safe space is not a technique, it is a mindset. It is a genuine commitment to understanding, not to winning. The first component of creating safety is to lead with non-judgmental curiosity. You must approach the conversation not as a debater, who already has all the answers, but as a humble student who is genuinely eager to learn about the other person's world. People can feel the difference. They can sense when you are asking a question to gather ammunition for your rebuttal, versus when you are asking a question because you truly want to understand their perspective. Before you even open your mouth, check your own intention. Is your goal to prove a point, or is it to gain a new perspective? Only the second intention will create the safety needed for an honest conversation. The second component is the art of active listening. Most of us do not listen, we just wait to talk. While the other person is speaking, we are busy formulating our own response in our heads. This is the opposite of active listening. Active listening means giving the other person your full, undivided attention. It means listening not just to their words, but to their tone, their pauses, and their body language. It means trying to understand the emotion behind the words. A simple way to practice this is to make it your goal in a conversation, to be able to summarize the other person's point of view so accurately that they say, "Yes, that is exactly right." When a person feels truly heard and understood, they will feel safe enough to share even more. The third component is validation. Validation does not mean you have to agree with the other person. It simply means you acknowledge that their feelings are real and valid from their perspective. Simple phrases like, "That sounds incredibly frustrating," or "I can see why you would feel that way," are incredibly powerful. They communicate empathy. They tell the person that you are on their side, in the sense that you are trying to understand their experience, even if you do not share their opinion. Without this foundation of safety, curiosity, and validation, even the most perfectly phrased question will fall on deaf ears. Now that we have built the foundation, let us open our toolkit and examine the different types of questions. The most fundamental distinction you must master is the difference between open and closed questions. This one concept, when properly applied, will revolutionize your ability to gather information and build rapport. A closed question is one that can be answered with a single word, most often yes or no. Examples include, "Did you finish the report? Are you happy with the proposal? Have you been to this restaurant before?" Closed questions are not bad. They are useful for confirming facts, getting a clear commitment, and bringing a conversation to a decision point. However, they are conversational dead ends. They do not invite elaboration or sharing. An entire conversation built on closed questions feels like an interrogation. An open question, on the other hand, is designed to do the opposite. It cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. It invites stories, emotions, and opinions. Open questions typically begin with one of a few key words: who, what, where, when, how, and sometimes why. Let us look at the transformative power of turning a closed question into an open one. Instead of asking the closed question, "Did you have a good weekend?" which will likely get you a simple yes or no, you could ask the open question, "What was the most interesting thing you did this weekend?" This question invites a story. Instead of asking your employee, "Are you having trouble with the new software?" which might make them feel defensive, you could ask, "What has been your experience with the new software so far?" This opens the door for them to share both the good and the bad. Instead of asking your partner, "Are you angry with me?" you could ask, "How are you feeling about what just happened?" This invites a discussion about their emotions, not just a one-word confirmation of them. Let us take a moment to discuss the word why. While it is technically an open question word, it must be used with great care. A why question can often feel accusatory. "Why did you do that?" can sound like, "What is wrong with you?" It can put people on the defensive, forcing them to justify their actions. A more effective approach is often to soften the why by turning it into a what question. Instead of, "Why did you miss the deadline?" which is full of accusation, you could ask, "What were the challenges that got in the way of meeting the deadline?" This reframes the person as someone who faced obstacles, not as someone who failed. It invites collaboration, not justification. Once you have asked a good open question, your next set of tools are probing questions. A probing question is a follow-up question that gently encourages the person to elaborate on their initial answer. They are simple, but incredibly effective. Some of the most powerful probing questions include, "Can you tell me more about that? And what happened next? How did that affect you? What was that like for you?" These questions are pure empathetic invitations to go deeper. They show that you are listening and that you are genuinely interested. A conversation that skillfully weaves together open questions and probing questions will quickly move beyond the superficial and into the realm of meaningful connection. Now let us discuss the crucial difference between neutral and leading questions. A neutral question is designed to get the most honest and unbiased answer possible. It does not suggest a correct response. For example, "What are your thoughts on the new proposal?" is a neutral question. A leading question, on the other hand, subtly or not so subtly, pushes the person towards a particular answer. For example, "Don't you think this new proposal is a huge improvement?" is a leading question. It contains the answer you want to hear. Leading questions can be useful if you are a lawyer trying to influence a witness, but they are terrible for building trust and getting to the truth. They signal that you are not interested in the person's real opinion, only in getting them to agree with yours. To become a master questioner, you must become ruthless about eliminating leading questions from your vocabulary. Sometimes, to get to a deeper truth, you need to use hypothetical questions. These questions ask a person to step outside of their current reality. and to imagine a different scenario. They are wonderful for uncovering a person's true values, passions, and motivations. For example, you could ask a colleague, if you had a magic wand and could change one thing about how our team works, what would it be? This question bypasses their normal filters and can reveal frustrations or brilliant ideas that they might otherwise be hesitant to share. To someone who seems unhappy in their job, you could ask, imagine for a moment that financial security was completely taken care of. What kind of work would you want to do with your time? This can unlock a conversation about their true passions. Hypothetical questions are tools for exploration and creativity, and they can lead to some of the most insightful conversations you will ever have. One of the most advanced and powerful techniques in your questioning toolkit is not a type of question at all. It is the strategic use of silence. Most of us are deeply uncomfortable with silence in a conversation. When a pause lasts for more than a second or two, we feel an overwhelming urge to fill it with words. This is a huge mistake. Silence is not an empty space. It is a space that is pregnant with possibility. After you have asked a thoughtful, open question, your most powerful move is to simply shut up and wait. Resist the urge to rephrase the question. Resist the urge to answer it for them. Just wait. This comfortable, patient silence does two magical things. First, it gives the other person the space they need to think and to formulate a more considered, honest answer, rather than just spitting out the first thing that comes to their mind. Second, it creates a subtle social pressure. The silence becomes a vacuum, and the other person will feel a natural pull to fill that vacuum with more information. You will be astonished at what people will tell you if you simply give them the silent space to do so. They will often answer your initial question, and then in the silence that follows, they will continue talking, revealing the deeper, less rehearsed truths that were lurking just beneath the surface. Mastering the art of the comfortable pause will make you seem like a conversational wizard. Let us now put all these pieces together in a real-world scenario. Imagine you are a manager and one of your star employees, Maria, has been underperforming lately. Her work is late, and her normally cheerful attitude has been replaced by a quiet withdrawal. You need to find out what is going on. The clumsy approach would be to call her into your office and ask a series of closed, leading, and why questions. Are you having problems at home? Don't you realize your work is slipping? Why are you being so quiet in meetings? This approach would immediately put Maria on the defensive and would likely get you nowhere. Now let us use the artful approach. You invite Maria for a coffee, creating a safe, informal environment. You start with rapport, not with the problem. Then you open the door with a gentle, open question. You say, Maria, I wanted to check in with you. I have noticed that you seem a bit quieter than usual lately. How are things going? You have started with a neutral observation and an open question. Maria gives a vague answer. Oh, things are fine, just a bit tired. Now, instead of challenging her, you use a probing question and a bit of validation. It sounds like you have been feeling drained. Can you tell me a bit more about what has been tiring you out? She might share a little more, perhaps about her workload. It has just been very busy. A lot of deadlines. Now you use the power of silence. You nod, make eye contact, and just wait for a few seconds. In that silence, Maria, feeling heard and not judged, might add the crucial piece of information. And my mother has been unwell, so I have been spending a lot of time at the hospital. You have found the real issue. It is not about her being lazy or unhappy at work. It is about a major personal stressor. Now you can have a real conversation. You can use hypothetical questions like, what would be the most helpful way for the team to support you right now? You have used a sequence of safe, open, and probing questions, combined with the power of silence, to move from a surface-level performance issue to a deep, human truth. The result is not a reprimand. It is a plan to support your employee and a much stronger, more trusting relationship. Your ability to read people will give you invaluable clues about their inner state. It will tell you when they are uncomfortable, when they are happy, when they are hiding something. But it is your ability to ask the right questions that will tell you why. Observation provides the what, inquiry provides the why. When you combine these two master skills, you will be able to navigate any conversation, resolve any conflict, and build a level of connection with others that you have only ever dreamed of. Your words are your keys. Choose them with care, and there is no door you will not be able to open. Chapter 10. Reading people in the digital age. Texts, emails, and social media. We have arrived at the final frontier of our journey into reading people. So far, we have been operating in the rich, data-filled environment of face-to-face human interaction. We have learned to become connoisseurs of the physical signals that people broadcast, from the grand posture of the body to the microscopic flicker of an eye muscle. But we now live a significant portion of our lives in a different world, a world of screens, keyboards, and glowing text. This is the digital realm, and in this realm, we are often flying blind. The vast majority of the non-verbal cues we have so carefully studied are suddenly stripped away. There is no body language to observe, no tone of voice to hear, no eye contact to hold. The person you are communicating with is reduced to a stream of characters on a screen. It can feel like trying to understand a symphony by reading only the lyrics, with no access to the melody, the harmony, or the rhythm. This loss of information is one of the primary reasons that digital communication is so frequently misunderstood, leading to confusion, hurt feelings, and unnecessary conflict. But all is not lost. To believe that we cannot read people in the digital age is to surrender to the limitations of the medium. The truth is that human beings are relentlessly expressive creatures. Even when our primary tools of expression are taken away, our personalities, emotions, and intentions will always find a way to leak out. The clues are simply different. They are more subtle, and they require a new kind of literacy. We must learn to read the digital body language that is hidden within the text itself. In this chapter, you will become a pioneer in this new frontier. You will learn how to find the emotional meaning hidden in the timing of a message, the choice of a word, the use of a single piece of punctuation. You will learn to read the carefully constructed persona of a social media profile and to spot the truths that lie between the lines of a curated life. The world has changed, and our methods for understanding each other must change with it. This is not just a fascinating skill, it is an essential survival guide for the modern age of communication. Let us begin with the most fundamental clue, one that is often overlooked: the choice of the medium itself. Before a single word is even typed, the platform a person chooses to use for their message is a significant piece of data. Think of it as the context for the entire interaction. If your boss needs to discuss a serious performance issue with you, would you expect a text message or a formal email followed by a request for a meeting? The choice of the email and meeting signals seriousness, professionalism, and the gravity of the topic. If they were to send a text message instead, it might signal a lack of professionalism, a sense of panic, or a desire to keep the conversation unofficial. Consider the difference between a text and a phone call. In our modern world, an unscheduled phone call can often feel like an intrusion. A text message has become the default for quick, casual communication. Therefore, when someone chooses to call you instead of texting, it is a deliberate choice. It signals that the topic is either too complex or too emotionally important to be handled by text. They are consciously choosing a medium that includes the rich data of vocal tone. Conversely, if you are in the middle of a difficult text conversation and you suggest, "Can I just call you quickly?" and the other person replies, "No, I can't talk right now. Let's just text," they are making a choice to avoid the emotional intimacy and honesty of the human voice. They may be trying to hide their emotions, or they may simply need the time to carefully craft their written responses. The choice to avoid the richer medium is just as informative as the choice to embrace it. This principle extends across all platforms. A message received on a professional networking site like LinkedIn carries a different weight and expectation than a direct message on a more personal platform like Instagram or Facebook. The first suggests a professional context, while the second suggests a more social or even intimate one. The person who sends you a friend request on Facebook after a first business meeting is sending a very different signal than the person who connects with you on LinkedIn. The first is an attempt to cross the professional-personal boundary, while the second is an act of maintaining it, by simply asking yourself, why this medium? Why now? You can gain a significant amount of insight into the sender's intention and their perception of your relationship before you have even read the first word of their message. Now let us dive into the text of the messages themselves. The emails, the texts, the instant messages. This is where we will find the digital equivalent of posture, gesture, and facial expression. Our first area of focus is timing, or what we can call the rhythm of the conversation. The pace of a digital conversation is full of meaning. Consider the simple response time. If you send a message and receive a reply almost instantly, it can signal enthusiasm, interest, and engagement. The person is present and eager to communicate. However, a consistently instant reply can also, in some contexts, signal a lack of other things to do, or even a degree of anxiety. A significant delay in response time, on the other hand, can have a wide range of meanings, and we must use our knowledge of the baseline and context to interpret it. What is this person's normal response time? Are they a fast replier who has suddenly gone silent, or are they a chronically slow replier? A sudden delay from a normally fast replier is a significant shift. It could mean they are busy, of course, but it could also mean they are struggling with how to answer your question. The delay is the time they are taking to think, to craft a careful response, or perhaps to avoid an uncomfortable topic. The longer the delay, especially on a simple question, the more likely it is that there is some emotional or cognitive friction involved. Then there is the infamous typing bubble in many instant messaging apps. This little animation is a fascinating window into the other person's thought process. If you see the bubble appear, disappear, and then reappear multiple times before a message finally arrives, you are witnessing self-censorship and careful construction in real time. They are typing something, deleting it, and then rephrasing it. This tells you that they are being very careful with their words, which could be a sign of respect for you, or it could be a sign that they are navigating a sensitive topic and are struggling to find the right way to lie or to soften a difficult truth. When you finally receive a simple OK after seeing the typing bubble dance for a full minute, you know that OK is the heavily edited and filtered result of a much more complex thought process. The time of day a message is sent is also a powerful clue. An email sent from your boss at 3 in the morning carries a very different energy than one sent at 3 in the afternoon. The late-night email can signal a workaholic culture, a sense of urgency or panic, or perhaps that the sender feels they can only be honest and direct when no one else is around. A text message from a friend in the middle of the night might be a cry for help or a sign of deep distress. The timestamp on a message is not just data, it is context. Next, we must become masters of decoding the most subtle yet powerful aspect of written communication, punctuation. In the absence of vocal tone, punctuation has become the primary way we signal emotion and intent. It is the new tone of voice. Consider the period, the full stop. In formal writing, it is a neutral grammatical tool. In the world of texting and instant messaging, it has taken on a whole new and often aggressive meaning. Because the default way to end a short message is with no punctuation at all, the addition of a period can feel sharp, cold, and final. Compare the emotional feeling of these three responses to the question, "Are you coming tonight?" Yes, yes, and yes. The first is a simple confirmation. The second is enthusiastic. The third, yes, feels passive-aggressive, angry, or annoyed. It is a slammed door at the end of the word. A person who suddenly starts using periods when they normally do not is sending a clear signal of a negative shift in their mood. The exclamation point is the digital smile or shout. One exclamation point can signal genuine excitement and friendliness. Great to hear from you feels much warmer than great to hear from you. However, the overuse of exclamation points can start to feel insincere or even manic. And a string of them, "I can't believe you did that, cha," is almost always a signal of high emotion, usually anger or disbelief. The ellipsis, the three dots, these is the punctuation of hesitation and unspoken thoughts. It can signal uncertainty, "I'm not sure." Or it can be a passive-aggressive way of letting a statement hang in the air, inviting you to wonder what is not being said, as in, "Well, I hope you have a good time." It is a digital sigh, a shrug, or a raised eyebrow. The question mark can also be used to signal more than just a question. A single question mark can be a simple inquiry, but a string of them, "You are where?" signals disbelief and shock. The use of all caps is the digital equivalent of shouting. It is almost always perceived as aggressive and angry, unless it is being used for clear emphasis on a single word. A message in all caps instantly puts the reader on the defensive. By becoming sensitive to these subtle shifts in punctuation, you can begin to hear the emotional music that is playing behind the written words. Beyond punctuation, the world of emojis, GIFs, and memes has become our new library of facial expressions and gestures. An emoji is not just a cute little picture, it is a sophisticated tool for conveying emotional nuance. A simple OK can be interpreted as cold, but adding a smiley face emoji, OK, instantly transforms the tone into something warm and friendly. However, the world of emojis is fraught with ambiguity and generational differences. The simple smiley face emoji can be seen as friendly by an older generation, but as slightly sarcastic or condescending by a younger one. The crying, laughing emoji might be used for genuine amusement, while the skull emoji might be used by a younger person to mean, "I'm dying of laughter." The key is to establish a person's individual emoji baseline. How do they normally use them? A person who never uses emojis suddenly sending one is a significant event. A person who always uses them suddenly stopping is an equally significant sign of a mood shift. The passive-aggressive use of emojis is also a common tactic. The thumbs-up emoji can be a simple "got it," or it can be a dismissive, conversation-ending gesture. The slightly smiling face emoji is notorious for being used to signal a forced smile, a mask for irritation or disappointment. Reading emojis requires you to combine your knowledge of the person with the context of the conversation. When in doubt, it is always better to ask for clarification than to assume the meaning of a tiny, ambiguous picture. Now, let us turn our attention to the carefully constructed world of the social media persona. If a text message is a short conversation, a social media profile is a full-length theatrical performance. It is a person's curated highlight reel, the version of themselves they want the world to see. Your job as a reader of people is not to take this performance at face value. Your job is to be the astute theater critic who understands the difference between the character on the stage and the actor backstage. You are looking for the patterns, the themes, and the subtle inconsistencies that reveal the truth about the person behind the profile. Begin with the profile picture and the bio. This is the poster for their personal movie. Is the picture a professional headshot, a casual selfie, a picture of them with a large group of friends, a picture with their family, or a picture of their pet or a landscape? Each of these choices sends a powerful message about their identity and what they value. The professional headshot says, "My career is central to my identity." The group photo says, "My social connections are what define me." The picture of their dog says, "I am a nurturing person, and this is a safe way to show it." The bio is their tagline. Is it their job title, an inspirational quote, a joke, or a list of their hobbies? This short piece of text is a highly condensed statement about how they see themselves or how they want to be seen. Next, analyze the content they post. This is the script of their play. What are the recurring themes? Are they constantly posting about their career achievements, a need for validation and status? Are they constantly posting glamorous travel photos, a desire to project an image of freedom and success? Are they constantly sharing inspirational quotes, perhaps trying to convince themselves as much as their audience? Are they constantly posting angry political rants, revealing a deep-seated frustration and a need to be seen as morally righteous? The content is a map of their values and their insecurities. Also, pay attention to the style of the photos. Are they perfectly staged and filtered, or are they raw and candid? The first suggests a person who is highly concerned with projecting an image of perfection, while the second suggests a desire for authenticity. Just as important as what they post is how they interact with others. This is their social performance. Do they interact at all, or do they just broadcast their own content without ever replying to comments? The broadcaster is using social media as a stage. The interactor is using it as a community. Look at the tone of their comments on other people's posts. Are they supportive and encouraging? Are they argumentative and critical? Do they use their platform to lift others up or to tear them down? This will tell you a great deal about their general disposition towards other people. Be on the lookout for the phenomenon of vague booking. This is when someone posts a deliberately vague and often dramatic status update, like, "This is the worst day of my life," or "Some people are just so fake." The post is designed to elicit a response of, "What's wrong?" or "Are you okay?" It is a passive-aggressive cry for attention. While it does signal genuine distress, it also signals a communication style that is indirect and somewhat manipulative. A person who frequently posts in this way is likely someone who struggles to ask for what they need directly. The ultimate skill in reading a social media persona is to look for the gaps, the inconsistencies between the curated self and the likely reality. The person whose feed is a constant stream of perfect, happy couple photos might be trying to overcompensate for a rocky relationship. The person who constantly posts about their amazing social life might be feeling deeply lonely. The performance is often designed to mask the exact opposite feeling. This is not a call to be cynical, but a call to be realistic and compassionate. When you see a performance of perfection, understand that you are likely looking at a person who is struggling with the same insecurities and fears as everyone else. The more perfect the mask, the more pain it is often designed to hide. Finally, we must acknowledge the great danger of reading people in the digital age, the danger of misinterpretation. Because we are working with such a limited data set, the potential to project our own moods and biases onto a neutral message is enormous. If you are having a bad day, a simple periodless okay from your partner can feel cold and dismissive. If you are having a good day, that same okay might feel perfectly fine. You are coloring the message with your own emotional state. The most important rule in all of digital communication is this: when in doubt, clarify. Never assume you know the tone of a message. If a text or email seems ambiguous or upsetting, resist the urge to fire back an angry response. Instead, use the questioning skills we learned in the previous chapter. You can send a simple, non-accusatory message like, "Hey, I might be misreading the tone of your last message. Can you tell me a bit more about what you meant?" Or even better, pick up the phone. A 30-second phone call can clear up a misunderstanding that could have festered for days over text. Your digital reading skills are a powerful tool for generating hypotheses about a person's emotional state, but they are not a substitute for direct, clear, and sometimes even voice-to-voice communication. The digital world is a new and complex social landscape. You are now equipped with the map and the compass to navigate it with greater awareness and skill. You know that the medium is part of the message. You know how to find the emotion hidden in punctuation and the rhythm of a response. You know how to look behind the curtain of the social media performance. Use this knowledge not to become a digital detective who is constantly suspicious of others, but to become a more empathetic and intelligent digital citizen. Use it to understand the unspoken anxieties of your colleagues, to better connect with your friends, and to approach the online world with a new level of compassionate insight. The screen may be a barrier, but with these skills, it can also become a window. Conclusion. We have reached the end of the final chapter, but we have not reached the end of our journey. In fact, the true journey is only just beginning. The pages of this book are not a destination, they are a departure point. You have been given a map, a set of tools, and a new way of seeing the world. Now, it is time to step out into that world and to start using them. The goal of this book was never to teach you a series of clever tricks to outsmart or manipulate others. The goal was to awaken a faculty that has been lying dormant within you. It was to give you the keys to a deeper, more profound and more authentic connection with every single person you meet. You have learned that communication is a beautiful and complex symphony, and that the words people speak are only one small instrument in the orchestra. You have learned to hear the music of the body, the rhythm of the voice, the melody of the eyes, and the harmony of the soul. Let us take a moment to look back at the path we have traveled. We began by opening our eyes to the silent language of the body, understanding that a person's posture and gestures are a billboard for their true feelings. We learned that the difference between an open, confident posture and a closed, defensive one can tell us more than 1,000 words. We journeyed into the eyes, the very windows of the soul, and discovered how to read the subtle signals of a gaze, the honesty of a pupil's dilation, and the profound difference between a fake social smile and the genuine eye-crinkling smile of true joy. We explored the vast and intricate canvas of the human face, learning to recognize the 7 universal emotions that are the shared heritage of our entire species. You learned to spot the fleeting micro-expressions that leak a person's true feelings, even when they are trying their best to hide them. From there, we trained our ears to listen in a completely new way. We learned that the sound of a person's voice, its pitch, pace, and tone, carries a massive amount of emotional information. You learned that it is not what people say, but how they say it, that often holds the deepest truth. We then turned our attention inward to the most mysterious and powerful tool of all, your own intuition. You learned that your gut feelings are not magic. They are the result of your subconscious mind's incredible pattern recognition abilities. You learned to distinguish the quiet, calm whisper of true intuition from the loud, frantic shouting of fear and bias, and you learned how to cultivate that inner voice through mindfulness and presence. With these observational skills in hand, we moved from the passive to the active. We learned the art of putting it all together, of seeing the entire picture by looking for clusters of signals and deviations from a person's normal baseline of behavior. You learned that congruence, the harmony between words and body, is the hallmark of authenticity, and that incongruence is the flashing red light that tells you there is a deeper story to be found. We tackled the complex topic of deception, not by looking for a mythical lie sign, but by learning to spot the signs of a brain struggling under a heavy cognitive load. And then, you learned how to use this wealth of observational data not as a verdict, but as a guide. You learned the art of asking beautiful questions, of using open, probing, and curious inquiries to unlock the doors of a person's inner world with respect and empathy. Finally, we brought these skills into the modern age, learning to decode the new and subtle language of digital communication. The integration of these skills is what will transform you from a student into a master. It is not about using one skill at a time. It is about allowing them to merge into a single, fluid faculty of perception. It is about being in a conversation and simultaneously noticing the slight shift in your friend's posture, hearing the subtle drop in their vocal tone, feeling a quiet nudge from your intuition, and then using that combined insight to ask a gentle, probing question that allows them to share the burden that is truly on their mind. This is not a cold, analytical process. It is a warm, human, and deeply empathetic one. It is the art of making another person feel completely and utterly seen. To make this a lifelong practice, a part of who you are, I want to offer you 4 pillars to build your new temple of understanding upon. These are the principles that will carry you forward long after you have put this book down. The first pillar is unwavering presence. All of the skills we have discussed are useless if you are not present in the moment. If you are in a conversation, but your mind is replaying a past event or rehearsing a future one, you are blind and deaf to the reality in front of you. The greatest gift you can give another human being is the purity of your full attention. When you are with someone, be with them. Put your phone away. Quiet the chatter in your own mind. Listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being. Presence is the soil in which all true understanding grows. The second pillar is insatiable curiosity. The enemy of understanding is judgment. The moment you believe you have someone figured out and you slap a label on them, you stop seeing them. You only see your own label. Curiosity is the antidote. You must cultivate the mind of a child, the mind of a traveler in a foreign land. Instead of thinking, that is a stupid thing to say, train yourself to think, I wonder what life experience led them to that conclusion. Instead of judging a person's nervous fidgeting, get curious about the source of their anxiety. Curiosity is the engine of empathy. It keeps you open, humble, and always learning. The third pillar is compassionate detachment. This may sound like a contradiction, but it is essential. As you become more sensitive to the emotions of others, there is a danger of being overwhelmed by them. Compassionate detachment is the ability to understand and acknowledge another person's feelings without taking them on as your own. You can understand a friend's anger without becoming angry yourself. You can feel empathy for their sadness without being drowned in despair. It is the balance of being connected but also centered in your own emotional space. This allows you to be a source of calm and strength for others, rather than just another victim of the emotional storm. The fourth and final pillar is courageous application. This knowledge is not meant to be kept on a shelf. It is meant to be used. This will require courage. It takes courage to ask a deeper question. It takes courage to gently address an incongruence you have noticed. It takes courage to trust your intuition when it goes against the conventional wisdom of the room. Start small. Practice in low-stakes situations. But you must practice. Every interaction, from buying a coffee to negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal, is an opportunity to hone your skills. Do not be afraid of getting it wrong. Every misinterpretation is a learning opportunity. The only true failure is the failure to try. The ability to read people is not about gaining power over others. It is about gaining a deeper connection with them. It is about reducing conflict, building trust, and navigating our complex social world with grace and wisdom. It is about becoming a better leader, a more understanding partner, a more supportive friend, and a more compassionate parent. When you can see the insecurity behind a person's arrogance, you will respond with compassion instead of aggression. When you can see the fear behind a person's anger, you will respond with reassurance instead of defensiveness. When you can see the sadness behind a person's forced smile, you will respond with kindness instead of ignorance. This is the true power of this skill. It is a power that does not diminish others, but enlarges them. It is the power to heal, to connect, and to understand. You are now an ambassador of a deeper language. Go out into the world and listen to the stories that are being told all around you. The silent stories, the secret stories, the true stories. Our journey together in this book may be over, but the great conversation of humanity is always waiting. For more explorations into the fascinating world of human connection and communication, and to continue our conversation, be sure to find us at Audio Waves. The learning never has to stop. Thank you for taking this journey. Now go and be brilliant.